And welcome to another episode of Fight Night Picks Kicks. We're really looking forward to this week. UFC 257 coming up tonight. You can find the full card betting guide. You can find all of the picks and predictions. Way to go, Ottman Azaitzar. Really messed that one up for the boys. And if you want to check it out, we have new and updated merch over on the store, including the Under Armour hats we just restocked and the brand new red Fight Night Picks Under Armour t-shirt, a good addition to any fight fan's wardrobe. So hit it up, the new site over at fightnightpicks.com. And without further ado, let's get into it. Fight Night Picks is brought to you by Vertiball. Head on over to their website. It's vertiball.com. And listen, it's an awesome product. It's a local company out of New Brunswick, Canada. So make sure you support those guys locally as well as Fight Night Picks. But they're the only mountable portable muscle massager. They can stick onto any smooth surface. They've got an industrial strength suction cup. Can support over 100 pounds of pressure. You can get really into those deep knots. I have one here at home. I use it for my back and my shoulders from holding up that Fight Night Picks Pick'em trophy. But listen, make sure you check them out. It's a great product. Like I said, they're recommended by physiotherapists, masseuses, and chiropractors across Canada, the US, UK, and Australia. And they're used by countless professional athletes like Minka Fitzpatrick on screen there, as well as Clellan Farrell of the Raiders. So if you head into the cart, make sure you check them out. So I've got a Vertiball massager in my cart right there. Use the promo code FNP. You're going to save 10% off your order. You're supporting this company here that I'm very passionate about in New Brunswick, Canada, and you're helping out us as well. So make sure you check them out, vertiball.com, promo code FNP, 10% off your order. And without further ado, let's get into it.
Ladies and gentlemen, recorded in Fredericton, New Brunswick, Canada. It's time for Fight Night Picks with your host, Craig and Matt Allen.
And Matt, just like that, we are live for the Fight Night Picks UFC 257 Fight Companion. We wanted to get it going before the pay-per-view, but of course, we have a fight that's going a little bit long. We have Matt Frevola right now take on Arman Tsarukyan. So what we'll do is we'll switch over to our corner view. We'll be able to check in on the stats, of course, for that main card. We'll be flipping back and forth, but for this one, Arman Tsarukyan right now really making things interesting, but Matt Frevola doing a great job in the scrambles. You can see from the total strikes, both very close. Matt Frevola currently outstriking Arman Tsarukyan, but this is a good fight so far.
This is kind of what we had predicted too. Yes, Frevola was the underdog going into his original fight with Azaitar, but at least Tsarukyan is going to play into his game plan. He's not going to stay at range and try to make this a boxing fight. He is at least going to wrestle with Frevola, and so far we've seen Frevola. Yes, he's been taken down a couple times, but in all the scrambles and all really the transitions, he's been able to hold his own against Tsarukyan. So we'll be interesting with Tsarukyan missing weight to see if Frevola can just outlast him.
Exactly. I mean, we have a minute and 52 seconds left, and when we get up to that main card, of course, we'll have the timer going. We'll have a lot of fun with that. Whoa,
couple
big spin back kick. And again, like you said, it'll be very interesting to see if Arman Tsarukyan can last into the second, last into the third. He's gotten the better of Frevola so far. We have about a minute 34 remaining in our first round. But yeah, it's been a weird one. And we'll get back to the rest of the prelim card. I mean, I know right now we're both 2-3 so far. Definitely hasn't been our night after a 10-4 and 11-3 Wednesday. Definitely went well there. But Arman Tsarukyan now starting to land on Matt Frevola.
The volume for Tsarukyan, that's the one thing that might be able to overwhelm Frevola, especially on the feet. We talked with the wrestling of both guys and the grappling, but Tsarukyan, when he is going forward, he's a problem for a lot of guys just in the striking department.
Minute 4 remaining in the first round. Frevola really putting a lot into his shots.
Good elbow by Tsarukyan.
Tsarukyan is as well. A lot of pressure from Frevola early as well.
Hands by his knees.
I mean, he expected probably a knock him out, drag him out type of fight with Ottman Azaitzar. What's in the bag?
Good right hand by Tsarukyan. Frevola's throwing wild. He's fighting like David Rickles right now.
Holy smokes, he kind of looks like him. Oh, those jabs. The 1-2 from Arman Tsarukyan.
He is like Rickles.
Oh, boy.
Matt Frevola. He's not taking Dustin Poirier's spot as my favorite fighter, but he's definitely moving up the ranks.
You look at a guy like Arman Tsarukyan, though. Big right hand for Matt Frevola.
Oh, my goodness. He cracked him hard.
Been a good round so far, though. Again, I mean, with a guy like Arman Tsarukyan, nice right hand there from him. You really have to worry about those takedown attempts. You know that Matt Frevola, well-schooled in the wrestling. We got about 12 seconds remaining in our first round.
This is by far the best case of what this fight could have been, though. Like, it was either, they're going to scramble a bunch, or Matt Frevola's going to throw absolute bombs over the top, and maybe catch Tsarukyan as he goes. So, Damn. Wild first round.
First round, you see the striking numbers there. 33 total strikes landed by Arman Tsarukyan. You have 24, looks like it, for Matt Frivola. But overall, yeah, I mean, a great fight so far. Really entertaining fight. Definitely what you wanted, because you saw that. I mean, going into this one, you had a guy in Arman Tsarukyan, huge favorite. He was a 7-1 on a lot of sites. And it's weird to see that, especially with a short notice matchup.
Exactly.
Obviously, there was a lot of hype with Arman Tsarukyan. We had Tsarukyan to get the win over Nasrat Haqparast. But man, that would have been a good fight. You know, you look at a fight like this, you look at a guy like Arman Tsarukyan and a guy like Matt Frivola, and you say, well, what's the expected payoff in a fight like this?
True.
For Matt Frivola, taking a fight like this against a guy that came in heavy, total different switch of opponent, I mean, you have to think Matt Frivola would probably get a favorable matchup coming out of this one.
It's something we talk about. Like, Dana White has his favorites from the event. Like, the guys who... And this is the one good thing Dana White... He does a lot of good things, but... One of the things I do like is he will give guys on the undercard, like, he'll give them shine if they do really well. And hopefully for Vola, listen, win, lose, or draw, it's not like this is going to be his last fight in the UFC by any means, especially fighting like this. So
start of the second round, SAPT, how did you guys score Praknell? I had a 29-28 Praknell. I saw a lot of, differing opinions, Akash Deep being one of them, but there were a lot of people out there in the DMs on Instagram pretty upset about that one. But Roundtree had him hurt in the second round.
Bad.
We were going back and forth. Could you fault him for not really going ham after the takedown? Good here? Is Arman Tsarukyan.
And this is really what's going to be interesting. Like right now, Frivola's just trying to strike and trying to switch and get himself on top of Tsarukyan. If I was Frivola, on the feet you've had success so far. I would try to disengage from a lot of these, like he currently is. So maybe I'm wrong. That was just Arman Tsarukyan would not be denied on that takedown.
Arman Tsarukyan really, I mean, the nice body lock that he has there, really trying to push the pace, get Frivola away from the cage, which we've seen him have success, pop back up to his feet. Now Matt Frivola, again, well-schooled wrestler. He's not the Derek Lewis type to just pop back up at a sheer force of will, especially late in a round, but Arman Tsarukyan really doing work. Matt Frivola very busy from the bottom here, though.
Is it wild that Derek Lewis might have better jiu-jitsu than Sarah McMahon? That's a conversation for another day, but I think it might be true.
It very well could be. We got 3 minutes, 46 seconds remaining in our second round. Matt Frivola fishing for something. Tsarukyan with the top position.
Still in full guard, though. Not really looking to pass, and that is something that it'll be curious to see. If Tsarukyan does try to go for those big jumps, if he does try to pass guard, Frivola, from what we've seen, squirrely off of his back, and any kind of distance that you do give him, he's either working to get back up to his feet or just create distance, set up a submission. So I like the activity from Frivola off the ground, even though he is mainly being defensive.
Very difficult fight, though. I mean, you have to really talk about the fact for both of these guys. I mean, they were both originally set to take on strikers. Now they get grappler wrestlers, which is very similar to their own skill sets. As Matt Frivola gets back up to his feet, very impressive. And you have to wonder if this pace for Arman Tsarukyan is something that he can sustain, as we have about 3 minutes remaining in our second round. Like I said, moving forward with the main card, obviously we figured the fights are probably going to be over with 15 minutes before the main card, but that is not the case. We'll have the timer up. We'll have our other screen up if you got a chance to see it at the very start. But Arman Tsarukyan, again, getting position over Frivola. You have to think that this is definitely scoring in the eyes of the judges. Now, it's been interesting, especially looking at one of the earlier fights that we had. William, let's get into it. Blue Dash with the McMahon, I know. But for me, if Tsarukyan gets the win by decision here, I am a happy camper, because that parlay that I threw out there in question mark kicks, it was Albazi, it was Tsarukyan by decision. I'm happy.
It's looking good so far. Like, I really can't go against it. Good job defensively by Frivola so far, though. I understand he is the one defending takedowns and whatnot, but he hasn't really accepted much damage up until this point. Good job by him. And again, we're just trying to bring out positives. When you're a plus 700 underdog, just having a competitive fight should be kind of a win. That's the way I always look at it. Like, if you're that big of an underdog, no one expects you to make it out of the first round, much less have a competitive fight.
Really trying to fish for an arm here. Looking possible armbar from Frivola in the bottom as we have 1 minute and 46 remaining.
Tsarukyan is great at floating on top, though.
Tsarukyan does a great job. I mean, and it was mentioned in the chat, question mark kicks, the fact that Tsarukyan was really in a flow state in his last fight against Davi Hamos as he searches
going for the
neck
darts right now. He's in
now
side
he switches.
Control. Oh, sorry. It's interesting. Daniel Cormier kind of mentioned it, and I do agree with him. Side control, not to say it's a lost art in MMA, but it's something that you don't really see as much of anymore.
Cut on the face of Arman Tsarukyan. You can see the blood starting to pour down there from top position. Again, it's just Matt Frivola being very busy from the bottom, always doing something. You love to see that in a fighter, and you have to also think, again, If Matt Frivola had the win, favorable matchup. If Matt Frivola loses, it's water off a duck's back.
Oh, yeah. This is one of those classic, like, win-win situations. And I know it's hard to say that because he's in a fist fight. And if you lose, it's probably not the best thing in the world. But still, if you go out there and just have a competitive fight with a guy like this, it's going to put you in the good graces of the UFC. Especially the fact he took this fight on, a day's notice against a guy who stylistically is the complete opposite of who he was supposed to fight in the first place. So, yeah.
SAPT tossing out the Tyron Woodley Vicente Luque.
Okay,
be a great fight.
Yeah, I'm the conductor of the Vicente Luque hype train, and I would really like that fight.
Frivola continues to land from bottom. I mean, you're going to see that add up in the total strike numbers, of course. Arman Tsarukyan ahead by quite a bit at this point, really. Going for the head and arm, it seems. Looks like it might be too late. Will he be able to lock it in?
He's going for it right
tight.
now. Again, Frivola defensively on the ground is doing a very good job. But every single time Tsarukyan is on top, he's the one going for a submission. So it's really hard in the eyes of the judges if you are Frivola, just constantly being on the defensive from all these attacks.
Nice roll by Frivola late. We have about 4 seconds remaining. That round, majority all Arman Tsarukyan.
Okay.
Again, can the pace be sustained in the third? If the second round was any indication, I think we're going to get more of what we've seen throughout this entire fight. If you're scoring this one on your cards so far, I mean, personally, I've got this one 20-18 for Tsarukyan.
Without a doubt, 20-18. Now, the first round was kind of close, but I do think Tsarukyan definitely took it. Now, the second round, although Arman was on top for the majority of it, it's not like he did enough damage to really get himself a 10-8 by any means. He didn't have any close submissions or anything, so although it was a very dominant round, it definitely does not warrant a 10-8.
We have a look. Green King saying Frivola bringing that heat. Arman is so ripped. WTF, and the stream must be ahead of theirs. With Phoenix Graves, if you want to try and sync it up, again, we'll have the timer. This view was pretty much so we could go between rounds, in and out, yeah. And we're also going to check before fights, have a little bit of a conversation beforehand. Dominant round for Tsarukyan. Blue Dash has at 19-19. SVPT with the 20-18. C Boogie saying, what's the best picks you got for the main card? Listen, if Arman Tsarukyan wins this one, I'm a happy camper. We'll go through our picks before each and every fight, but this was the little parlay that I had. It was about a plus 224 with Albazi and Arman Tsarukyan to get the win by decision. As we start our third round, Matt Frivola, again, quite active.
And you really like to see that, too. He's not just moving backwards based on everything Tsarukyan's throwing at him. He is at least being the one initiating a lot of these striking exchanges. The problem is Tsarukyan just has such a nice, diverse realm of striking. And, of course, he secures another takedown.
Center of the cage, he locks the legs, but Frivola gets out of it. And that's not something you see very often with the right high kick from Tsarukyan on the get-up.
The kid is squirrely.
4 minutes and 29 seconds remaining in our third round. And, yeah, I mean, what a performance by both guys, really putting in a great one. Scott Fontana on the screen has it 20-18 for Tsarukyan. Seems to be the consensus over there. First Last Lakes Chandler's an underdog.
I do too,
again,
honestly.
To me, there's so many fights on this card that we're popping popcorn, just really want to enjoy it. The main and co-main event, you talk about level of excitement, hype. The one weird thing about this card in general was the fact that, you know, you're going to hear it from the UFC brass. It's trending so high. Oh, Habib, you know, this is trending higher than your fight with Conor. You look at the numbers on the embeds, the averages. The average for this was lower than Cowboy and McGregor, which is pretty interesting to see, as Matt Frivola just continues to whip kicks into the air like a helicopter through the night.
The man's a blender for sure. And here's the thing about Frivola. If he is going to win this fight, he's going to need a finish. I'm wondering why we're not seeing him using his offensive wrestling more. I understand Tsarukyan is a phenomenal scrambler, but I would at least try to initiate some of these grappling sequences, especially on the feet. You're just kind of getting beat up at distance. At least switch it up to give Tsarukyan a different look.
And for everybody that's joined in, again, appreciate the support. We're almost at 20,000 subscribers. So if you're not subscribed, toss a like, toss a sub. Arman Tsarukyan pushes forward. We have about 3 minutes and 5 seconds remaining in our third and final round. Both guys really going for it. Another thing that you love to see in a fight like this.
Oh, 100%. And really, at this point, I'm just curious who both guys get matched up with next. Because for Tsarukyan, he did miss weight. That's something you can't really get rewarded for. I do think he is one of those guys who, at the very least, is a top 25 talent in the UFC. And I understand top 25, that's an easy prediction to make. There's 10 guys outside the top 15. But still, you look at what he is able to do and just the overall skill set he brings to the octagon. I really like Arman Tsarukyan moving forward. Hopefully, he can just get his weight in check.
Expert Taze asking when the fight for McGregor is, as Tsarukyan gets out of the guillotine attempt. 2.5 minutes remaining. We're at the halfway mark of our third and final round of our last prelim. Matt Frivola, incredibly busy off the bottom. And you talk about a couple of guys that train together. Wow, what a roll for Matt Frivola.
And they're up again. Matt Frivola. Wow.
That's just lovely. You love to see that out of the guy. I mean, a great fight so far. This has been our fight of the night, without a doubt. And we've had some good ones, too.
We've had some stinkers, though, let's be honest. Like, this is definitely the fight of the night so far. I'm assuming on the main card there's going to be a couple bangers, especially that co-main event and main event. But yeah, so far a fairly good card. Frivola, just, again, it would be nice to see him be first. I understand it's hard to do against a guy who is such a big favorite, but Frivola does seem to just be reacting a lot to what Sarukian's doing.
Sarukian picking Frivola up, getting his back. This is insane grappling, ladies and gentlemen. Drew P makes a good point. People get title shots off missed weights, and then they get cut because they make too much money.
Listen, it happens. I'm just saying 9 times out of 10. It's not like you're really rewarded for missing weight.
Sarukian with the back, doesn't have the body lock. Frivola scrambling out of it. I mean, just an insane fight that we've seen so far. Joe asking a great question in the chat. What do you think will happen to Azaitar? Probably end up where he was before. I would expect him with a Brave CF. With a couple of other promotions that probably not even UAE Warriors. I think that'd be a really tricky one now that they've almost aligned themselves with the UFC. Possibility of having them over on Fight Pass as well. I know that was a bit of the conversation. Green King saying you're going to cop that red Fight Night picture. Listen, man, I'll be honest. I know we're doing the commentary for the last prelim, but yeah, I actually really love this one. I wasn't going to take one for myself, but it fit, so I took one out of inventory.
If it sure fits, you might as well take it.
AG, isn't this 2 for 2? Yeah, it would be. So, Zarukian's put on an amazing performance. Yes. Really performed admirably. And again, for Matt Frivola, he's mounted, I would say, you got to get that leg out of there for Zarukian, but he's looked great in the scrambles. It's been a great fight so far. Now, Restack saying, are you showing the fight? As a fight companion, no. You watch it at your house, I'll watch it at mine, and we'll have a chat about it. SAPT Azaitar would be an insane addition to Bellator. I know, he probably would be.
It's just odd, though, to see. It's a very strange situation, and that's why it's really hard to predict where he will go next, as the fight's pretty much done. Sarukian, just unofficial scorecard, he won this fight 30-27. I feel very comfortable saying that. But for Azaitar, it will be odd. Just nothing like this has ever really happened before in the UFC or really in MMA before, so it'll be interesting to see how the other promotions will react to what he did do.
I mean, you have Arman Tsarukyan more than doubling the strikes of Matt Frivola. You look at the knockdowns, none. Significant attempts or submission attempts, none. The really telling stat that we're going to see here, again, strikes by target, really mixing it up, both guys. The kicks by Frivola were really interesting. If one of those was able to land. JC saying Dana's watching. Good choice, boys. 100%. You look at the total strikes by position. Zarukian more effective from distance for sure. And I mean, just overall, a very good fight from both guys. Of course, it's going to be more one-sided when the judges come together and we get a decision on this one. But overall, a great fight and one to really cap off the prelims quite well. So we'll move back up to the total stats. And then once we get the insight on this one, we'll start to talk about our main card. Once we get our scorecards coming in here, we're 2 past 11 local time. We're an hour ahead of Eastern Standard Time. A lot of people asking if we're live. We are live. We won't be showing the fights. We mean well. We don't need to get into that bad mojo.
No, we don't need Dana White putting people up outside of our houses, tapping our phones, because that's the type of stuff he does.
And I mean, really, if you're new to Fight Night Picks, which just about everybody is, we've covered the UFC in the past. We covered UFC Moncton. It's behind Matt right there. I happened to be there covering it live. It was a great card for sure. And yeah, we've covered a lot of regional shows as well. Bruce Buffer with our decision. Arman Tsarukyan, your winner. And a great fight to cap off the end of our prelims. Now, Matt, if we have a look, I mean, we're getting ready for a great card. Obviously, in front of us, we have Dustin Poirier and Conor McGregor in your main event. What we'll be doing with the Fight Night Picks Fight Companion, we're here for the entire main card, and we're going to be chatting about all of the matchups. We'll go back and forth with the stats, but when the fights are on, we're going to keep it with this screen. You're going to have the timer up in the middle. If there's a groin shot, if there's an eye poke, we're all SOL. We're going to have to report on the time, but I'm going to hit that as quickly as I can. Sean McMinn hitting us up in the super chat with $5. And the boys realistically went 3-3 on the undercard, but the 2 for 2 out of Fight Night Picks question mark kicks, that's not that bad. That's not that bad. So, Matt, what can you tell us about this card and about this main card in particular? We got a lot of great fights coming up here.
I don't know if you guys have seen the commercial where you just hear Conor McGregor go, "Surprise, surprise, the king is back," but I've seen it about 55 times. And I gotta be honest, even upon the 56th viewing of it, I'm still pretty fired up for this card. Again, you guys know how much I love Dustin Poirier. You know how exciting just the UFC is in general when Conor McGregor is associated with it. And the one good thing Conor McGregor does bring to the UFC outside of his exciting fights and just his large name, mainstream MMA media does cover his fights, and it's a nice thing to see because it's not often you see, MMA fighters on First Take talking about upcoming UFC cards, or Daniel Cormier going on ESPN and talking on their different platforms and shows just about the UFC. It's just a nice way to get a lot of additional eyes onto the sport, and that's always a positive. Call people casuals, call them hardcores. The more people who watch MMA, it's just better for all of us in general, and this card is just a great example of how you can have a great big card that brings a whole new set of eyes to the sport.
And we love everybody tuning in. Sean McMinn in the super chat, like I said. And hey, Jake the MMA fan 1997, watch you guys for a while, but never posted in the chat. Love from England. Hey, shouts to the Commonwealth. We have a new Governor General. Your Queen's got to approve that. Weird stuff here in Canada.
You guys are real MMA fans, though. I couldn't imagine waking up at 3 in the morning to watch UFC, but no, you're one of the real ones, and we appreciate it.
It should be a great card, though, as we have the hype for the main event. Of course, if you already paid for the pay-per-view, you're hyped up enough. But overall, like you said, this is such a good card. The fight between Hooker and Chandler, I'm more excited for the co-main than I am the main event.
No, you're not.
I've psyched myself up in my head that I am, so that's where my headspace is at. But I'm just really looking forward to this card. It should be a great one. Some doggy saying, when is the fight starting? You got a while. You probably have 10 or 15 minutes until our first fighters enter the cage. And let's throw it on over to the first two. Because
out here from Australia. Shout out to Australia and Ireland. Wow. From Brazil. The whole world's watching us.
The whole world is watching. It's absolutely insane. And this is all we could have asked for. And again, you want a backstory? Everybody hanging out here. We used to do Fight Companions way back when, but we might have had 200 subscribers. Not a lot of people were tuning in. The worst part for us, it wasn't the numbers. It was just there was nothing in the chat. And now that we have so many people just down to watch the fights and hang out and hit us up in the chat, I'm really looking forward to that. Green King is asking the question. We've got it locked and loaded for later on, so maybe there's going to be a little bit of tomfoolery here, but I'm really looking forward to it. Some doggy from Saudi Arabia. I've got the Canadian, Molson Canadian. And overall, again, great show. Jorge Duarte from Portugal. We have Renee from San Diego. I'd love to go to San Diego. I'd love to go to Petco Park. It looks like
I just like seeing where people are from. This is cool.
One of the best ballparks out there in the majors. But again, you see this fight. You have a rematch that's so long in the making. It's been so long between the two fights. Both guys before at 145 pounds. You look at Dustin in his young career. He had already taken on some really tough tests before he fought Conor McGregor. I know this is going to seem a little bit contradictory to what was said in our original video, but, we kind of gave the experience edge at the time or in the video. You had mentioned maybe McGregor, but Dustin Poirier had fought some of the best fighters out there. When they clashed, McGregor really shone that night. And again, it just added to that lore of, you beat Poirier, and at the time, he had, so much stock around him. You beat Holloway. It was still early on, but a great win there, and so on and so forth. Really built McGregor into what he was. And for Poirier, he's had such a nice road since, 10-2 with a no contest. It's been an insane career for Dustin Poirier.
Let me list off some of the people Dustin Poirier has fought in his career. The Korean Zombie, Cub Swanson, Conor McGregor ×2, Max Holloway ×2, Eddie Alvarez ×2, Justin Gaethje. He has fought not only some of the best fighters of today, he's fought some of the best fighters of his generation.
JC brings up a great point. We have Green King from New York. We have Leonardo from Brazil. We've got Kiwi Lance from New Zealand. May 2K saying, do you think Khalil Roundtree was robbed? I do not. I do not.
That's a very good case of, I think the second round wasn't a 10-8, but it was more than just a 10-9, and I think Pragnell won the first and the third round. So it just kind of brings up the conversation of who did the more damage in the fight. Of course, Khalil did the most damage in the fight, but when you actually judge the fight round by round, it's hard to disagree that Pragnell won 2 of them.
We have a Dustin Poirier little show going on. They have a light show. They showed Conor McGregor, and then they went blue, white, and red. So is it France? Is Tom Duquesnoy going to come out? Where are you at, Tom? Donnie Cash coming in from Wisconsin. Wasim from Montreal. Wasim, I wish I could go back to Montreal.
Beautiful place.
Love Les Canadiens. They were up on the Canucks earlier on when we started.
Winning
and I know
4-2 last time I checked.
Akash Deep is a big Canucks fan in the chat. So keep moderating it. Do a good job for us. And yeah, we can agree to disagree there on the hockey. Reese Young Music, you're here from Australia. We got Juan coming in from Dallas, Texas. I've never been to Dallas. I've been to Houston for the airport, but that was about it. So that's as far as I've gone.
Fight starts soon. So we're just waiting for the first fight on the main card right now. They're just kind of doing the pre-show hype up, I guess. It's odd that they're hyping us up for people who have already bought the pay-per-view, but they're just kind of doing the DC, John Anik, Paul Felder little three-person thing. But hopefully Marina Rodriguez and Amanda Ribas are making the walk any minute now.
Yeah, and it should be a great fight. I mean, Ramon's looking forward to it. We talked about it. We got them up in front of us. Rodriguez, you know how good that Muay Thai is. And, you know, the funny thing about this card, while the prelims for us didn't go all that well, 3-3. And that's the thing. A lot of people like to head into the comments, oh, you guys are terrible, this and that. A lot of the things that were said were true. It's just the picks were wrong. Like with Brad Tavares, he attacked that lead leg of Carlos Jr. He defended the takedowns. We thought Carlos Jr. would have been able to do something with it. It just didn't happen. The Khalil Roundtree, kind of tentative in the first a little. It was a feeling out process. Marcin Prachnio, though, in that fight, he at least had a little bit of a rhythm. I know a lot of those punches were looping, some of them missed, but with the volume, he definitely was able to do something, convince the judges, too.
The way I look at it was, in the third round, Khalil, he not only seemed gassed, he just wasn't really throwing that much, and everything he did was a reaction to what Marcin was doing to him. And when you're always fighting on the back foot, when you're always the one trying to react to what your opponent's doing, it's going to be very hard to win a fight, much less just a round. So I get it. It was a close fight. The second round, Khalil won the second round more than Marcin won the first or the third rounds. I know that's a strange thing to say, but again, I still think the right guy won.
We got Mario Perez hitting us up from Portland, Oregon. I'll tell you what, Mario, I miss Portland, Maine. I miss Portland, Maine, going down to cover the fights. I mean, that was something that I get to do once in 2021 back in February. Flew out of Portland to Florida for vacation, then came back and covered the fights. And on that card, the main event was Bruce Boynton, who a lot of people know, World Series CS, champion at CS, and Manny Bermudez. And it was his fight coming out of the UFC. It was his first fight back, and Bermudez looked amazing. Also missed weight at lightweight, fought at bantamweight in the UFC.
You hate to see it.
You hate to see it, and that's the one thing that really, you know, just it kind of sucked out of 2020, the fact that, A, there wasn't really anything for regional MMA, but there wasn't a whole lot that we could cover. I know somebody that we get along with quite well over on the interwebs, over on Instagram, Kat from Fight League Atlantic. We'd love to go over and cover FLA in Nova Scotia. They had Jesse Arnett on their last card. He had a big fight with UAE Warriors here the other week in front of Dana White and company. So overall, it'd be great to get back out on the road, especially meeting a lot of the Fight Night Picks fans. I've had a lot of people from just our area in the Maritimes in Canada hit us up and really want to kind of, you know, do some stuff. Like, go out. Maybe it's Boston Pizza, watch the fights, what have you. Wasim asking where we're from. We're from Fredericton, New Brunswick, Canada.
The one and only.
Joe from Wales. Listen, Joe from Wales, A, unfortunate the fact that Mason Jones wasn't able to get the win, but B, that guy has some potential in him. I think both guys really do.
It was a great example. It does remind me of the Guram Kutataladze fight and the Marcin Gamrot or Mateus Gamrot fight. It was a fight where, yes, Gamrot lost, but you still realize how high his ceiling is in the UFC. And same thing with Mason Jones. You don't become champ by accident. That's not just something that happens, especially at 155 and 170 pounds. So for him to be able to accomplish that outside the UFC, they gave him Mike Davis as his first fight. Like, Mike Davis is a very, very good fighter, and he's a guy who, it's tough to predict anyone's going to be in the top 15, especially at lightweight, but he is a guy who on any night could beat anybody. So the fact that he beat Mason Jones in a very tightly competitive fight, there's nothing to take away from Jones. Still a very bright future for him.
100%, and I mean, overall, again, like I said, fights have been great so far. Uptown, you're saying Johnny Hendricks OST or Oklahoma product. I was able to go through the campus of Oklahoma State, not OU, and holy smokes, the football stadium there is huge. Hanging out in Oklahoma, I've been there a couple times so far. It's a neat place. Like, it's fun, you know. I actually really like my time there, and the people are great, as they are just about everywhere I travel. Usually people are pretty good. So yeah. Lucas saying rough guess on time between the main card start and McGregor start. Probably a few hours. I mean, you got to consider you have 3 fights before it. You're going to have a build-up, obviously, to the fight in the co-main event that they're showing right now, and then the main. So you have 4 fights, really, and then the 5th. Made 2K, still making the case for Khalil. The trouble is, it was a unanimous 29-28. I get the damage argument there. And I have one question for Voo Dude, saying Rhys McKee lives up the road from me. Not a great showing for Northern Ireland so far. He got cut from the UFC.
He did. Hopefully he can make his way back, though.
My one question for Voo Dude, I saw Rhys McKee post a picture on his Instagram of a brand new Tim Hortons being built close nearby the gym in Northern Ireland. Let me know if you have Tim Hortons over in Northern Ireland.
Because that stuff is great.
I'm not a big Tim's fan.
How dare you?
I don't like Tim's at all. But yeah, I want to know that because I could have sworn I saw it, and it'd be pretty interesting to see. Giving us a bit more of an idea of what we're going to have on this main card. Let's flip it on over to our secondary view. And again, Marina Rodriguez taking on Amanda Ribas. And the one thing that you can't see from this angle is the fact that Amanda Ribas is thick tonight. She is not a strawweight coming into this one. She's more like a featherweight. So it'll be interesting to see, you know, when you weigh like that coming into a fight, just where's Marina Rodriguez at?
It will be very interesting, especially the fact that Ribas, again, her last fight was, of course, at 125, and it's always curious to see. I'm always concerned about their first fight back down to their weight. Their second fight, their third fight, it's not as concerning. It always is curious, though, or I'm always curious to see how their body reacts to that initial weight cut going back to their weight class. Now, I think we're both quite high on Amanda Ribas moving forward. I think we both these women in this fight have a very high ceiling and have a lot of potential in the division. But for Ribas, if she is as heavy as her father said this morning, if she can get top position, that's a phenomenal position for her anyways, but if she can dominate from top control, all that added weight is really going to help her keep Rodriguez to the ground.
And I mean, you look at Amanda Ribas, a fighter with great credentials in terms of not just her striking, but her grappling, her judo background as well. You look at somebody like Marina Rodriguez, and in a fight where, and it's so overused and I overuse it, styles make fights, this is a great stylistic matchup for both fighters. It can make for a really interesting fight.
100%. And it is fun, too, because we're going to figure out how good the striking of Amanda Ribas is in this fight. Like, I guarantee you Rodriguez is going to be able to defend one takedown. And the issue is, Rodriguez's striking is absurd. She has a slight, and again, I'm going to get some flack for this, she fights a little bit like Germaine de Randamie. Now, I'm not here to say that she's as good as Germaine de Randamie, but just the style, there are some similarities between the two. If Ribas gets her to the ground, though, it is going to be, there's such a big discrepancy between these two, especially when it comes to grappling. You see the floating ability, you see just the overall submission game of Ribas. I just really like her in this one.
Voo Dude, you do have that Tim Hortons. That's great to see, and I saw it up above there a little bit from our man who hasn't commented before, Jake the MMA fan. You have it in Birmingham, and it's terrible.
Hey now.
We've got some family over that way, too.
We do.
We'll have to check in and see if they've been checking it out. Voo Dude saying, yeah, we drive by it all the time. Check it out. I mean, I'm partial to a chocolate glaze.
I can throw them a good order if they want it. I'd go large French vanilla, get a bagel belt, and your day is going to be pretty good.
Yeah, the trouble with them, they've gone through 3 different dark roast blends in like 3 years. Stick with one. Because if you acknowledge that the first 2 are bad and the third's going to be good, then they're probably not good at all.
As the great George W. Bush said, fool me once. Shame on. Shame on. You fool me, can't get fooled again. And that's how I feel about Tim Hortons Dark Roast.
Amanda Ribas coming in here, the minus 335 favorite on the UFC's broadcast. Let's have a look over at best fight odds, Matt, for this one. Because, again, you never know what you're going to get out of these fights. You got Amanda Ribas coming in an average. Ooh, boy, got to make it a little bit bigger. She's coming in an average minus 360 on best fight odds. From Marina Rodriguez coming in a plus 281. And on the broadcast, we're getting a highlight pack of Amanda Ribas. Again, it's a little awkward when the UFC will push somebody in a circumstance like this. I see we're getting a little bit more of Rodriguez. The trouble is when you put your eggs all in one basket, like even Prachnio Roundtree, it was all Roundtree, and I get it, huge favorite.
How much promotion was in either one of theirs favor? Like, it's not like they were just showing Khalil Roundtree commercials. I agree with what you're saying, not the best example. You look at the main event and every single promo that's been on TV, it's like 80% Conor McGregor, and then it's like, well, this Dustin Poirier's all right, and then they show a few of his like knockout highlights. He's not getting the respect he deserves. Now, I get what you're saying. Ribas is a massive favorite, and the UFC is giving her that push. I like how they are at least promoting Rodriguez right now, because again, this is an extremely dangerous fight for Ribas, and I don't want to call her a cash cow, because I don't think she's really reached that level yet, but she's an above-average, top-ranked fighter, if that makes any sense. Like, Ribas, the type of woman at strawweight who she will main event a fight night card at some point. I do see that being in her future. I see the UFC giving her kind of promotional pushes in that way, and if she wins, I'll hold on to it just until, like, the actual end of the fight. But I've got a few wonderful fantasy matchups for Amanda Ribas if she is able to win this one.
And we'll talk about those as we go on. Obviously, we're not just here to comment the fights. We're going to have a couple interesting tidbits as we roll on. But a fight like this, especially to open a McGregor pay-per-view, going to be huge for the winner of this one. And it should be a great fight. Mac L saying Beaver Buzz or Canada Dry. Well, one's a ginger ale and one's an energy drink. And one's a Western Canadian energy drink. But I will say about Beaver Buzz, you can get it on Amazon, and I love it.
I
think it's great.
Phenomenal.
I do enjoy it. That was one of those things early on with Fight Night Picks. We didn't get a sponsorship out of them, but they floated us some stuff.
I've got a keychain on my car keys to this day from them.
Yeah, I've got a hat, a Beaver Buzz hat, and that was cool, and some stickers too. My desk is all stickered up, but yeah, that's always fun. Anthony saying you gotta bet all those super chat checks. Ribas by sub. Let's root for the boys with some big bets. Anthony, you know what we do? So we put all the money and put it away, and then we invest, and we keep investing back into the business. So whether it's new thumbnails that we didn't have before, or whether it's on our Photoshop and Adobe and all that stuff, like everybody that helps out in the super chat, that helps out like buying some of the merch that you can't really see right now, that all goes towards furthering the channel. So if you help us out there, we'll try to continue to bring you more and more great content. Akashdeep, big on the Canada Dry.
Trailer Park Boys is a lot better than Letterkenny, and I don't even mind Letterkenny, but that's the type of show that my dad would be like, wow, this is really, really funny. And I'm like, it's funny, but Trailer Park Boys is definitely the better of the two Canadian staples.
Yeah, we're only about 3 hours away from good old Truro.
Corner Gas, that's another great call if you're looking for a great Canadian comedy. I highly recommend Corner Gas.
Good show.
I love the Amanda Ribas walk-in, too. It reminds me a little bit of the Gracie train back in the day when they would all kind of get together. Her and her coach, or her dad, I don't know who that is.
That's her dad.
That's her dad. Okay, that's what I thought. Just coming out clapping. It gets you hyped up, and I think that's a really smart idea, especially with limited capacity. I understand before there just wasn't any fans, and now there is a little bit, but you gotta get fired up somehow. And again, I'm a big basketball guy. Anyone who watches this knows that. If you watch basketball nowadays, especially without attendance, you see that the guys on the bench, it's a very college feel to it, where they are cheered on their teammates. They're actually involved in the game. And I think as a coach, especially during these times when there isn't always a capacity or there isn't always attendance, doing stuff like that to hype your fighter up, I think is a great idea.
It is for sure. I mean, sometimes you don't like to see the coaches slapping their fighter too much, but in this case, I mean, strong connection between father and daughter coming up here, and it should be a great fight.
I'm fired up.
I'm fired up as well. You've got the rest of the crew coming in from ATT. Amanda Ribas out of a great camp. Obviously, you have Ansarov, you have Nunes, but the list goes on and on. The Ioana and Jacek, and really interesting conversation there. Will she be back? Who knows what's next for Ioana?
That was weird, and it was one of those little kind of hidden tidbits that a lot of people didn't pick up on this week, is that not that Mike Brown announced Ioana was going to retire by any means, but he came out and said, he was like, she's not that interested in fighting if it is just another fight. Like, I doubt Ioana wants to fight Michelle Watterson again in just like another main event.
Renee asking the best question. Next tough coaches. That one's tough. Akashdeep, I agree with you.
I think that's a good idea.
Masvidal, Colby, but it's weird because you can't really... You can play them against each other, like, personally, but their belief system's kind of in a weird spot now, so that I don't know how that one would play. I like that. And then you can kind of go down through the divisions, but the trouble is when you have something like that, you gotta wait.
This is, again, don't worry, guys. I'm coming to the rescue. Do Max Holloway, Volkanovski 3, but have them be coaches of the Ultimate Fighter. You've already got the built-in storyline of, well, Max probably won the second fight. Volkanovski won the first fight. It's going to be a controversial trilogy anyways, because Volkanovski did win twice. The build-up would be phenomenal, because you would have Max... Now, I got to be honest. I'm a big Max Holloway guy, and he speaks a lot better than Volkanovski does, so like, tough would kind of be built towards the Max Holloway personality, but I do think that would be a perfect two coaches to have for your next The Ultimate Fighter.
The great point there by Joe saying, what do you guys think of Brett Johns moving to Bellator? Great fighter. He lives in the same town as me. Man, I love watching a Brett Johns fight.
He was a guy who, listen, the UFC fed him some killers. He fought Aljamain Sterling and Pedro Munoz back-to-back, and I understand. He was undefeated before that. He had 2 losses. He came back and had a nice win afterwards. It's unfortunate that he is gone, but Brett Johns is a phenomenal fighter, and you do look at those losses, and yeah, he lost those fights, but he lost to Pedro Munoz and Aljamain Sterling. 98% of the UFC's roster would lose to both those guys.
Tony Gravely fight was so good, and Bellator, whether it's 135, 145, 155, great lower weight classes. They continue to add, especially 205. Hopefully the fight is Johnson and Romero. If we get a Grand Prix at light heavyweight, that would be insane. But that's another one of those things. If you like the Bellator content, you gotta let us know, because it's something that if the fights start coming back, again, Bellator's next event's in February, so we're starting to get close, but let us know, because we love the Bellator events.
We love MMA. Like, if you guys want us to cover more MMA, we'll cover more MMA. It's quite simple.
Yeah, it's a give and take, but yeah, definitely let us know for sure. And Brett Johns, the pikey, he's one of those guys, man, with those leg locks, with some of the sneaky stuff he does on the ground. That calf slicer against Joe Soto,
my God.
That was amazing.
This is what people forget. Joe Soto won an EBI. I don't remember exactly what number it was, but he won an EBI. You put him in a calf slicer in an MMA fight. Like, the level of grappling that Brett Johns was able to show in that fight in particular was just absurd. Like, that's one of those submissions that no matter what happens, it's always going to stand out in my mind as one of those, like, oh my God moments.
Seth is hanging out in the chat. We're just about to get ready. So when we do go ready, I'm going to hide the logo that's in the middle. I got to look at it while I do it. And then I'm going to pop the timer up. So when the timer goes up, you know what's going to be going down. Mason saying, isn't the fight supposed to be now? Well, it's almost there.
Almost there.
Hebus looks like Conor gave a speech before the walkout. Maybe he did.
He's fired up. Fun fact about Bellator, I get to do my first press event for Bellator, and I was very nervous talking to Benson Henderson of all fighters, because Benson Henderson was the first fighter I've actually been able to talk to who I like grew up watching. Like, Benson Henderson to me was a huge deal. I remember him fighting Frank Edgar for the title. Like, Benson Henderson, in our household at least, like, we were both, not that we were always cheering for him, but Benson Henderson was a massive deal at one point in the UFC, and the fact that I get to ask him questions was absurd. So if you want me to ask more of my childhood heroes questions, I don't mind doing it whatsoever.
Amanda Hebos getting the bump from Bruce Buffer as we get ready for our first fight on the main card. Again, appreciate everybody for tuning in. It's great talking fights with everybody in the comment section. We'll try to flip-flop between the fights, the comments, and do our best job. JC saying Bruce Buffer's talking right now. Morgan Branch hanging out.
What's up, Morgan?
From the 6. And your birthday's the 6. What birthday that was in 2018? Yeah, that would be. Pay-per-view, there's an error, it won't start. I don't know what's going on for you. We're watching it on Fight Pass here in the Great White North, getting ready for this one. Hebos getting the particulars.
I'm glad other people have good Benson Henderson moments, and a bunch of people aren't just like, who the hell's Benson Henderson? Now, again, this fight, I do see this being one of those one of two ways fights. If Hebos can get it to the ground, she's going to dominate Rodriguez, especially in the grappling transitions. I love Hebos in top position. She's got a very high grappling IQ, and I always talk about Charles Oliveira when I talk about this. Charles Oliveira in top position, he can get you in a leg lock from full mount. Like, it doesn't matter where you are. He just has such a high knowledge of grappling that he can really get the submission no matter where it goes. Not that Hebos is Charles Oliveira on the mat by any means, because I don't really know who is Charles Oliveira on the mat, but she's very similar in that aspect. She can go for an arm. She can go for the neck. She's not just looking for that one submission. And I'll use Damian Maia as an example. Like, Damian Maia is probably the best grappler in UFC history, but his main specialty is he loves the rear naked choke. Like, that is his goal. I'm going to work your back. I'm going to choke you out. For Hebos, she will go for the arm. She will jump into, we'll say, bad positions just to get good submissions as we're about to start.
We're getting ready for the first round. I'm going to start the 5-minute timer as we get started.
I'm excited.
We'll do our best to sync up with everybody. And as we always say, let's get into it. Here we go. All right, we have the first fight, the first round. Hebos taking on Rodriguez. Both women coming out of an orthodox stance.
Now,
go ahead.
I'm going to say this. Rodriguez, there is no hype about how much she weighs right now, but she doesn't look any smaller than Hebos. Like, frame-wise, again, she's not as thick as Hebos is, but she's tall, she's gangly, and I wouldn't be surprised if there's not a massive weight discrepancy between these two.
You got Hebos looking to try and cut the cage, really standing nice and crouched with those arms up, trying to defend away from those long shots from Marina Rodriguez. And that's one of those things that she does quite well. She'll pump a nice jab out there. She's got a nice cross. She really uses her Thai boxing quite well.
Now, when do you think she goes for the first takedown? Just minute-wise.
I would
Live
expect
reaction.
it. If the striking doesn't work early on in the first half of this first round, then it's got to be all go for the takedowns from Ribas. And so far, she's looking to close the distance. She looked to clinch Rodriguez back. And the one thing that you hear a lot in a lot of these fights is the fact that, you know, the fighter that's behind the two black lines doesn't typically get the win. But for Rodriguez, you never know. There could be an opportunity for her here.
Especially early on, you see Rodriguez, she just has really good movement on the feet. She's good at landing, getting out of range, and then readjusting. And it's something that was talked about a lot. Like Dustin Poirier does it. When he gets out of range, he'll pull on his shorts or something. There's a reset that a lot of fighters have. Rodriguez does a great job of, she's in, she knows what she's got to do, and then she's out. She's not waiting around for any extra
First
time.
takedown attempt for Ribas.
Beautiful head and arm.
Rodriguez almost did a good job of trying to get herself secured on the back. She has a neat lock of the left leg.
She's got one
Amanda
hook in
Ribas.
on the opposite side, and it's kind of like she's hooked both of Ribas' left legs. Now, right now, it's not really helping her that much. If she had both hooks in, of course, she'd be able to take the back. But right now, it's just preventing Ribas from passing into a better position.
Again, if you're tuning in out there, I know Odin Turnbull, the last comment out there, we're timed up. I don't know how I did it, but I'm right on time with the UFC and my timer in front of me. There's going to be a lag with YouTube, so just try and do your best to try and sync up with us as the fights go on. Again, if there's a groin shot, if they're wearing Jill cups and they get hit, well, then so be it. We'll have to try and figure things out from there. That always used to happen on the old Fight Companions, but right now, that left leg of Marina Rodriguez really giving Ribas some fits.
She's back into full guard now. So Ribas, she's cleared that one hook. She's just in dominant top position. It'll be interesting. Now, from the full guard, I don't really see Ribas as a ground and pound type of a fighter. I know some jiu-jitsu practitioners, they do like going for a lot of ground and pound. Like Gilbert Burns is a good example. He can get any submission no matter where he is, but he just likes to soften his opponents up with some really nice ground and pound. Ribas is not really that kind of a grappler. She's going for a can opener right now to try to open up the guard of Rodriguez, because Rodriguez keeps on closing that guard, because she knows as well as really everyone watching, if Ribas can get past the guard and just past the legs of Rodriguez, she'll be able to threaten with a trillion different submissions.
That was a great move there from Ribas. Now, it didn't really open up much for her, but at least keeps Rodriguez thinking as the sequence continues, working from the guard. Very active from both fighters. I'm not surprised, though, that Ribas definitely keeping her weight and all of her pressure in her upper body so she doesn't give that separation off for Rodriguez to start landing the elbows, landing a lot of those shots.
I think she needs the separation, honestly, because right now, she can't get anything off offensively. She can get the separation. She can at least pass the legs of Rodriguez.
Now we do have the separation. There's hand fighting ensuing. We got about 1:37 remaining in our first round with Ribas in the dominant position, but neither fighter really able to do a whole lot with this. Rodriguez definitely doing a good job holding the position.
But this is my issue. I don't like it when a fighter looks for the ref to stand them up, because that's what Rodriguez is doing right now. When you have your guard closed, if you're not setting things up, you're not really helping your position at all. And again, Ribas keeps on going for that really violent can opener. It's when you get both your hands behind your opponent's neck and start pulling up on them, and you basically curl them into a ball, which ends up opening their legs on the backside. If Ribas does keep on doing that, it's really interesting. Daniel Cormier talked about it earlier, where you kind of put yourself in an armbar position when you're going for that, but of course Ribas is such a good grappler, especially compared to Rodriguez, that if she is able to get that can opener and get past those legs, she can threaten with a lot, but Rodriguez is doing a very good job at keeping her guard together.
Under a minute remaining in our first round, more hand fighting ensuing. You still have Ribas working from guard there. Rodriguez down on the bottom. She is very active, though, from the bottom. She's not a fighter that just accepts position and really isn't in our category of the Luis Smolka effect.
No, Carlos Condit was in that category. Okay, everyone who we put in that category ends up getting out of it the next fight. Like, Luis Smolka loved laying on his back and not doing anything until he got on top and started ground and pounding his opponents. See, then Carlos Condit. Carlos Condit, how do you beat him? You take him down, you lay on him. Carlos Condit decided to put on wrestling shoes in his last camp. Became a very good grappler because of it, so good on him.
Voodoo, that's a good point. I'm going to have to check that out. Spent a lot of the week trying to figure it out and wasn't very successful. So I'm going to check out some different things because we're definitely primed and ready to continue on with the Fight Companions. As Rodriguez really tries to end the round strongly, I've got that one on my card. It's going to be a 10-9 from me for Amanda Ribas. You're in agreement here?
I am, but again, I didn't really like what I saw from Ribas in that fight. I would like to see her try to pass the guard of Rodriguez, because that's the thing preventing her from doing anything. If you just sit in the guard of your opponent, unless you're Mirko Krokop against Gabriel Gonzaga the second time around, you just decide, oh, I can throw elbows from here, you're not really going to be getting off a lot of offense. And for Ribas, there's a bit of a mouse under her left eye. It seems nothing too major so far, just something to keep an eye on. Rodriguez on the feet so far seems more dangerous than Ribas on the ground, if that makes any sense. At least Rodriguez, while she was on her back, it's not like Ribas was able to get anything significant off, whereas on the feet, again, it's not like Rodriguez dropped her or anything, but you could tell that her strikes were at least causing damage on Ribas.
Yeah, I mean, you have Rodriguez standing in her corner, getting ready for the start of our second round. It's going to be an interesting one coming up because, again, you had that wrestling edge with Amanda Ribas. We saw that one win out. She was able to get the 1-of-1 takedown attempts. And again, make sure you try and sync up with us. We'll be here ready for the start of our second round.
So we both have Ribas round 1, sorry.
Both of us 10-9 with Ribas getting the win as we time in for the beginning of our first round. Akashdeep has a 10-9 for Ribas. We also had the Blue Dash 10-9 for Ribas. Let us know in the comments who you've got so far in this one between Ribas and Rodriguez. Rodriguez working off the back foot. But again, very good fighter off her back foot. Not something that you see all that often.
Nice clinch.
Nice work in the center of the octagon. Both women very, very busy in this second round.
Oh, good overhand right by Rodriguez. Now, it's weird. Rodriguez does use delayed timing on some of her shots, and it's not something you always see, but some really high-level strikers! Rodriguez put Ribas down hard. That straight right hurt her bad.
That's going to be all she wrote.
Yep.
Oh, boy!
No, they stopped it.
Wow.
No! Herb Dean didn't stop it.
What? Oh, my gosh. I hit the timer. What are we doing her?
So, just really quick. Rodriguez drops Ribas bad with a straight right. You think the fight's over. Rodriguez says that Herb Dean hit her. And then, now it's over.
Oh, my gosh. Herb Dean. What a win for Marina Rodriguez. Wow.
That was impressive. Here's the thing. You don't see a lot of TKOs, especially in the strawweight division, and over someone who is as hyped up as Ribas. Now, we both had Ribas in this fight. I think that's something we should probably say right now. Rodriguez looked phenomenal. And, again, I don't want to pat myself on the back because I did get that wrong. But in between rounds, you could tell that Rodriguez on the feet was at least able to land damaging shots on Ribas. But wow, that was phenomenal. What a performance by Marina Rodriguez. And I'm going to throw a wild future matchmaking. I'd like to see her fight Rose Namajunas. Now, I'll be honest, I was going to say that no matter who won this fight. But right now, Rose needs an opponent because they're not giving her a title shot currently. Hey, Herb, figure it out. That's my other big point about that fight. But wow, great performance by Marina Rodriguez.
Great performance by Marina Rodriguez. I mean, if we have a look at the votes over on Instagram, 547 for Ribas to 61 for Rodriguez. Legends 23, you had Rodriguez to win by TKO. I mean, it was definitely a possibility. It was a tough fight to try and figure out, especially the fact that Ribas was such a favorite. But what an odd decision by Herb Dean not to finish that one. Legends 23, I gave you the shout out, bud. I gave you the shout out. What a weird finishing sequence. And we've unfortunately seen that in the past from Mr. Dean.
This reminded me a lot of when Cyborg got knocked out by Amanda Nunes. She's just kind of out on her feet. You could tell that Ribas is pretty much out of it, especially after she went down the first time. Weird stoppage. Great performance by Marina Rodriguez. Again, I hate it when controversy is sort of the thing that we're talking about, and we're not talking about the phenomenal performance of who won that fight. But Marina Rodriguez looked phenomenal. Her Muay Thai, absurd. And I love the power that she brings to the cage, especially into this division. Like, when I think of women's knockout artists, I think of Jessica Andrade, Amanda Nunes, and that's about it, honestly. I'm not saying Marina Rodriguez is an artist by any means, especially in the way that her knockouts are, but she's a phenomenal striker, and I think this proves, if anything, she could beat anyone on anyone's best day.
Yeah, that's a really interesting one. Very fixed fights tonight. No. What? That wobble, though, yeah. I mean, that was just one where it's almost hard to comprehend the fact that it just wasn't stopped sooner, especially knowing that you had a fighter on baby deer legs that was totally out.
Listen,
wow.
Herb Dean, if they die, they die. That's what he came into the cage thinking about. That was the most Mario Yamasaki stoppage that Herb Dean has ever had.
That was a page out of the Chris Tognoni book, if I've ever seen one.
It really was.
That was shades of Vegas in the cage.
But again, let's not talk about the controversy. Marina Rodriguez looked great in this fight. Defensively, her grappling looked a lot better than it had in previous fights, and that was an issue for her. Yes, her takedown defense, it's quite porous, but her defensive grappling was never that great either. We had seen fighters get past her guard and get into dominant positions on her. It's a really nice sign that she's at least been able to shore up some of the defensive holes that she had in her grappling. So right now, Rodriguez, her game plan is, if you take me down, I can hold you there and be defensively sound. And on the feet, I can bust up pretty much anyone in the strawweight division. So really excited to see where she goes moving forward.
Yeah, that's a very interesting one. I mean, we might as well pull up the UFC rankings just to have them in front of us. But you look at a win like that from Marina Rodriguez, still just has the 1 loss on her record, the 2 draws, and she definitely had fought the higher level of competition coming into this one for sure. I mean, the Tisha Torres, Cynthia Calvillos of the world, very established vets. And if you have a look at the top end of this division, you got Zhang Wei Li, Rose Namajunas, Joanna Jędrzejczyk, Yan Xiaonan, Carla Esparza, Nina Ansaroff, Claudia Gadeja, Watterson, and Rodriguez. There's some names out there that don't have fights.
There are. No. Like, women's strawweight is by far the best women's division, and it's not even close right now. Like, you just look through some of the fighters you listed off. Joanna Jędrzejczyk, you ever seen her in a boring fight? I certainly haven't. Marina Rodriguez has just added herself into the elite of this division. And I know that's wild to say, just coming off a win over Ribas, who, listen, we were high on her, some people weren't, but it's still a phenomenal win. You just don't see stoppages like this a lot in the strawweight division. So at the least, Dana White's going to get up there in the press conference and be like, wow, how good was she? And also, was this her first finish of the night?
Yeah.
So good for Marina Rodriguez, getting the main card started off right.
I mean, you're probably in line for a bonus, especially beating,
No, I guess Juliana Pena got one as well. But still, phenomenal performance by Marina Rodriguez in a fight that a lot of people counted her out in.
Renee wants to see Wiley versus Shevchenko.
I don't, and that's just me. But here, it's a weird fight, if I can just take a minute on that fight. Joanna Jędrzejczyk, I thought, did a really good job against Valentina Shevchenko, and everyone was talking shit about me for years about that. And then I went back and rewatched that fight again. I was right. That fight was fairly close. It reminded me a lot of the Jennifer Maia fight. It just took place 100% in the striking realm. But Joanna had some moments where she did really well. I'm not saying Wei Li couldn't also have some of those moments. The difference is Joanna Jędrzejczyk's takedown defense and her get-ups are second to none. If she gets taken down, she never has her back on the mat for more than 2 seconds. She's working to get back up to her feet constantly, whereas Wei Li, she's a phenomenal grappler, don't get me wrong. I just don't know how good her takedown defense is for me to want to see that fight right away.
Yeah, that's a really interesting way to look at it. And I mean, especially again at the top of that division, a lot of people want to see Yan Xiaonan really make that big push for the title. It'll be interesting to see who Zhang Wei Li gets next as well.
Has it been confirmed that Carla's going to be fighting Wei Li yet?
Seems like that's the conversation,
So,
but it hasn't been confirmed
Maybe
yet.
you do Marina Rodriguez against Yan Xiaonan as like the co-main event to that fight, and then worst case scenario, if either one in the main event does drop out, that would be a very good excuse to get either one of those up there. But again, women's strawweight, I can't say enough good things about. It's one of my favorite divisions. You've got men's lightweight, men's bantamweight. I'd say women's strawweight's right there with it. Like, those are my favorite divisions in the UFC, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Matt, if we look ahead at our next fight, you have Andrew Sanchez taking on Mahmoud Miradav. And in a fight like this, I mean, Andrew Sanchez, again, we know how good the wrestling is. All of a sudden, he's a karate fighter like Stephen Wonderboy Thompson at 185. He won the Ultimate Fighter, 205 pounds. Has a win over a guy that Marcin Prachniow has a win over. How crazy is that? Khalil Roundtree. Didn't think I'd say that tonight. And you've got Mahmoud Miradav that's on one of the kind of craziest win streaks that we've seen in a long time. He had 2 wins outside of the UFC with Octagon over UFC vets. He came in. The win over Trevor Smith, a real masterclass if you want to get to know a Mahmoud Miradav. But he's a great fighter. He's a guy that you definitely have to watch out for. The mullet is in full force for Andrew Sanchez. They're showing that, again, his last win was over Wellington Termon, where hands nice and low, we're just going to strike, and totally outstruck Termon. But at the same time, he did eat some shots in that one. I want to see him wrestle early, because I said it earlier on in Question Mark Kicks. If you have a guy like Andrew Sanchez walk in with his hands down, like, he's going to lose the fight.
Without a doubt. Like, Mahmoud Muradov's striking is on such another level that it's really hard to say that Andrew Sanchez can get to his level just in one fight camp. And yes, we have seen those progressions in the striking of Sanchez. And the thing about Sanchez that I do like is he must just be a sponge in the gym, because you did see what his striking was like, more of a boxing-heavy style. And then all of a sudden in that Termon fight, he did open up the stance a little bit more. He did use his movement along with his wrestling, and it worked out really well for him. So maybe we do see kind of the next level, an Andrew Sanchez 4.0, if you will. But Mahmoud Muradov is one of the more terrifying guys at 185. He's got the Sambo background. He's got the boxing. He's got the money team connection. And I know we could talk about this for hours, but again, it's weird that they bring up the fact that he's associated with the money team, but they don't really give him any extra press because of it. That's something that you might like to see. Hopefully they would promote it a little bit more, but I think this is kind of this is the fight that gets him over the hump. If you beat Andrew Sanchez, I know what you're about. Like, you could defend takedowns and you're a heavy-handed striker. that can take you a long ways in the UFC. And as you start fighting other levels of competition, you can start to pick up some other skills. So Mahmoud Miradav, this is really one of those sink or swim moments. He's either going to get taken down by Andrew Sanchez a billion times, or he'll be able to keep the fight on the feet. And for as good as the striking of Sanchez has looked lately, I really doubt he's on the same level as Miradav.
If you have a look at Floyd Mayweather's Instagram right now, and you go through his story, it's a lot of Angelo Leo, who's got a big fight coming up tonight against Stephen Fulton. That's a great one. One guy's a boxer, one guy's a puncher. Who's going to get the win? I'm looking forward to that one, or I guess seeing the results of that one. Brock Lyons saying Craig told me Sanchez, so he has to win. Listen, I wouldn't lose my shirt over this one. I'm just sitting here and enjoying it.
I'm loving the Gilbert Burns-Kamaru Usman promo. Can't hear what they're saying. I'm sure I'll watch it afterwards. But that's a fight that I'm very excited for. And I understand maybe the mainstream appeal isn't there for that fight. But to me, Gilbert Burns is weird. Everyone at the top of welterweight, I say everyone, Colby Covington, Kamaru Usman, and formerly Tyron Woodley, kind of that little three-man at the top of welterweight, are all phenomenal wrestlers. You know what Gilbert Burns has? The perfect counter to all your wrestling. Go ahead and take him down. He can choke you out. And it's not just like he's good on the ground or he's a black belt. Like, Gilbert Burns is... I'm trying to think. If Thiago Santos is a black belt right here, Gilbert Burns can't really see, but he'd be, like, in the sky. He's so good on the ground. What he was able to do in dominating Tyron Woodley, and I get it. Tyron Woodley, maybe he's old and past it, but just the way Gilbert Burns was able to win. And the fighter that we're seeing at 170 isn't the same guy we saw at 155. He's got the striking. He's got the gas tank. He's got the athleticism that can beat a guy like Kamaru Usman. And Usman is someone who... saying he's going to be like GSP is big, especially we're in Canada. That's a big thing for a guy to aspire to. But Gilbert Burns really could beat him, and I think Kamaru Usman is on one of those GOAT trajectories.
Legends 23 really feeling the guy who's representing Canada kind of in Andrew Sanchez out of TriStar, and it should be a great fight. Another comment, Cale Graham saying he made bank on Albazi and Rodriguez parlay.
Good for
Again,
you.
I more than doubled my money on Albazi and then the Zarukian decision. So I'm happy where I'm at. You guys break down the fights the proper way. That's one thing. There's some people that want us to go like back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Then you just end up talking over each other, and nobody wants to see that.
Yeah,
like,
we love arguing, but...
Yeah, we've done that on shows before, where it's just us talking over each other, and it sucks. Like, nobody wants to watch that. So you just gotta wait your turn, you gotta be polite. Matt might roll his eyes. I see it every now and again in the corner of my eye.
Okay, great.
And you just gotta do that and have fun with it. So, I am looking forward to that fight. I mean, Gilbert Burns, Kamaru Usman, that's a great one. It's a banger for sure. And again... the styles that you can put up against a guy like Kamaru Usman, nobody other than Colby Covington is going to match up like for like, so it makes it so, interesting.
Exactly. Kamaru Usman, his sort of default when he's not getting the best of these striking exchanges, he's going to go to that wrestling. Gilbert Burns, I don't know if you've seen, his striking is absurd all of a sudden. Like, he's one of the few jiu-jitsu practitioners who've really put in the time on their striking. Because we see a lot of guys, they're that single shot. We talk about it a lot. They try to go for that big overhand. Because you can throw as hard as you want to when you're not worried about getting taken down. Gilbert Burns went down to Sanford MMA, formerly known as, I guess had a bunch of different names, but now Sanford MMA. Trained his kickboxing with Henry Hooft. And Vicente Luque, who we talk about probably too much on this channel, but Gilbert Burns really does attribute the progression in his striking to his friendship with Vicente Luque. And same thing vice versa. Luque says a lot of his jiu-jitsu has come from Gilbert Burns, and when you have two guys who are so high level like that, you know it's just steel sharpening steel, iron sharpening iron. It's the same thing where you see all those promos with like Dustin Poirier, Jorge Masvidal. Like, when you have guys of that level who are in there every single day training together, you're automatically going to get better.
And I mean, they're showing that card, UFC 258. You have Uriah Hall, Chris Weidman maybe in the co-main event.
A rematch.
You got Calvin Gastelum, Ian Heinisch. Good fight. Munoz Rivera. I'm really looking forward to that one. And Macy Barber, Alexa Grasso. Grasso at 125 pounds. That's a good fight. I mean, Alexa Grasso in her last fight out, she's now ranked 15th in the division, so it should be a very interesting one there. Akashdeep, again, great point. It was Black Zillions, and it was Hard Knocks 365. Now it's Sanford MMA. Henry Hooft all right with throwing his gym. Just different coat of paint on the gym next day, and it's the same thing.
He's a wicked coach, and I think that's the big thing. And I gotta be honest, I was pretty critical of Henry Hooft in his first little run as a coach, because you always saw him. He wouldn't give out the best advice in between quarters. And that's easy for me to say, because I don't know what his fighters want to hear. But when you watch enough MMA, he just wasn't all that concise with his points. He would just throw a lot at his fighters. But I do think he himself as a trainer has made massive improvements, and of course that's going to happen when you're training world-class guys like Henry Hooft is. You're going to get better as a coach as well. And again, just some of the fighters that they have on that roster. He trains Michael Chandler, formerly Kamaru Usman, Vicente Luque, Robbie Lawler, Michael Johnson. Like, he's had a lot of great fighters in the UFC, and all those guys just work to make each other better every single day.
The comment there from Stephen Ward, I'm not going to show the fight. I don't need Dana White tapping my phones and showing up at my house. So
No.
Don't need that. Diss tracks, we haven't had Dan Hooker yet. And Rebecca asking if there's no card next week. There is not. But there's a week off. So you're going to have to look for some interesting programming from Fight Night Picks. But again, this fight between El Dierte, your former tough winner, Miradav with the standing walk-off knockout, absolutely insane. And for Andrew Sanchez, we've seen fights where he looks good. Like, where he could have competitive fights with top 15 fighters. And then you see fights where his cardio kind of fails him and he falls off a cliff.
That's really the big question with breaking down Andrew Sanchez fight. Are you going to get that like top 25 Andrew Sanchez who looks like he is a world-class fighter? Or are you going to get the guy who really just overexerts himself? Like, he tries almost too hard. As a fighter, a lot of fighters talk about this. They have to reach a certain point in their career till they're comfortable with how they manage their energy. I've heard Douglas Lima talk about this a lot, where Douglas Lima, after the first Rory McDonald fight, he told himself, I don't care about fatigue anymore. And that's a wild thing to tell yourself. Like, I don't care how tired I get in the middle of a fight. That's just not even in the equation anymore. For a fighter to eventually come to that realization, I think it's a really powerful thing to do. And if Andrew Sanchez can ever get to that point where he's like, okay, I don't care how tired I am after all this wrestling, I'm just going to keep on going for the next shot and the next shot, he'll become a real problem. The issue is, he's fighting an absolute monster tonight.
And I mean, Uptown hitting us up from OU. You love the work and the dedication. We appreciate you in the super chat.
Thank you.
As we get ready for our second fight on our main card, we have Mahmoud Miradav taking on El Dierte Sanchez, Andrew Sanchez. And it seems like a lot of people going with the man himself, Mahmoud Miradav. I've got Sanchez in this one, but again, I can't stress this enough. It's probably one of the least confident picks on the card. Because again, Andrew Sanchez, if he did what he did against... pick a bunch of names.
The first two
Ryan
rounds,
Anthony Smith, even Marcus Perez, kind of, where he just kind of wore on him. Like, there's a lot of opportunities for Sanchez to get a win here. For Miradav, he has some of the nicest boxing we've seen in MMA, and we talked about it before. The comparisons, the money team type of thing, whatever. But this is a guy that's clearly well versed in not just boxing, but MMA striking. You see it especially the way he gets his hands moving. He's very light on his feet. We talked about the L step in the original prediction. This should be a great fight. Again, am I going to be upset if Miradav wins? Well, no, I take a hit to my picks, but I have a whole year to make up for them. To me, like I said, I already made my money on this card. I'm here for the love of the game.
I just need Michael Chandler to win money, if I'm being completely honest with everyone, but I'm excited for this fight. I'm curious to see what the ceiling of Miradav is, because it's not like the money team's out here signing a lot of MMA fighters. Like, they had to see something in this guy that no one else is able to pick up on. It's one of those, like, oh, we know the advanced statistics before the other teams, so we're just going to pick up a bunch of these players. Miradav, him at his best, I do think could be... it's not the best comp, but a Jared Cannonier type. Like, Miradav on his best day could knock out pretty much anyone in this division, and I truly believe that.
Now, I'm very interested to see, again, the point was brought up, did they find the guy? Did they find him?
Uptown Militia says they didn't.
Well, we'll have to see what happens. Is there a fight happening, Owen Smith? We're just about to get Sanchez taking on Mahmoud Miradav, so hopefully that helps you out there. ESPN's still down for a lot of people.
That's unfortunate.
I don't want to... Yeah, I bought the pay-per-view on Fight Pass up here in Canada early on in the week just in case, so... Yeah, that's unfortunate. Sorry for everybody that's not able to see it. I mean, hopefully us blabbering on and hopping in there to the chat can help you out a little bit. But yeah, that sucks. It's disappointing for sure. Damn. Now, the mullet game out of Andrew Sanchez, some of the best I think I've ever seen in my entire life. He's got Eric Spicely in his corner, who was brutally knocked out and gave a guy an opportunity in the UFC with UAE Warriors just about a week ago. So that's what it is. Representing TriStar out of Montreal, Quebec, Canada, and a guy like him, I mean, again, won his last fight, RFA middleweight champ. We've seen RFA and LFA middleweight champs make it to the UFC. Again, the aforementioned Marcus Perez. We have Ian Heinisch. There's been all kinds of fighters pop in and out.
We see that you guys want play-by-play. Don't worry, we're getting there. Just the fighters are still walking out. So when the timer does come up on the screen, round one has begun.
We're still waiting. Andrew Sanchez making his way into the cage. He's got his hands down in his walk. By God, Andrew, put them up now. He's bouncing. I don't like that. Put your hands up. Please put your hands up. All right. We're getting set for our second fight on our main card, Matt. Let's kick it on over to our screen. And when that logo goes away, we will start the timer. We'll sync up with the fights as they are live in front of us. If you want to sync up over there on YouTube, I know there's going to be a delay here and there. Morgan Branch with the final countdown. It is a nice touch. And Joe saying Sanchez with a mullet. That's an instant win.
It's a nice salad he's got in the bag.
One can only hope. 1.5 inch reach advantage for Miradav. He's got 1 inch of height. Sanchez, 2 years older. In his physical prime of 32 years old.
He's
Andrew
10 years
Sanchez.
older than me. I think I'm in my physical prime, so it just goes downhill from here, I guess.
Bruce Buffer filling it. We get the fighter out of Tajikistan in a really tough out in Mahmoud Miradav. Uzbekistan. They had Tajikistan over on the UFC's website. They still do. I'm not lying. Go check it. I'm going to need something to drink. Walk us through this one.
Okay, so again, this is a really interesting fight. And I'm going to quote Teddy Atlas when I break this fight down. And some people like Teddy Atlas, some people don't. I'm a fan. I like him in boxing. It's going to be one-way traffic, one way or the other. Either Sanchez gets the takedown and Miradav isn't able to get back up to his feet. And it's just a draining game plan from Sanchez. But here's the thing. It could be draining on himself, too. That's the problem with an Andrew Sanchez fight, why it's so hard to break one down. He can win 2 fights, he can win 2 rounds, 10-8, 10-8, and still find a way to lose it in the last one. The Ryan James fight is a perfect example. Because he's beaten the brakes off poor Ryan James. He's beaten him to the punch, he's taken him down. There's nothing James can do. And then all of a sudden you can tell. The hands of Sanchez start here, and then they go here, and then they go here, and then they go here, and then you don't see them anymore, and Ryan James is TKOing him.
Let's get set for the start of our first round. Mahmoud Miradav taking on the tough out representing Montreal, Quebec, Canada, and Andrew Sanchez. We have the start of our very first round. And Andrew Sanchez has his hands up.
Good for him. Something you love to see.
Now I'm feeling pretty good. You've got Mahmoud Miradav opening it up with a kick. Sanchez faking the takedown right off the bat. You love to see it. Grabs a kick.
At a minimum, it's good to just give Miradav the look. Make him think that you are going to be shooting for a lot of those takedowns. Because again, on the feet, Miradav is as comfortable of a striker as you're going to find in MMA. It's nice to see him open up with a leg kick, too. If he could really incorporate kicks, especially moving forward, it'll really open up the hands.
Nice kick to the chest by Miradav on Sanchez. Sanchez looking to close the distance. Got to watch for those hooks on the entry. We'll have to see what happens here. Sanchez light on his feet. Now, he's not doing the bouncy karate stance with his hands down, but at least he's keeping him up like second to last fight out there. Miradav doing a good job on the outside. Really light on his feet as well.
Just sort of feeling each other out right now.
Not really getting a whole lot of action as we close in the first minute of our first round. Nice kick thrown by Sanchez. Really trying to establish distance from both these guys.
There's the first shot. Gets it on one leg. Good hips by Miradav. Great job by Miradav to get his hips away, back up to the feet. Great job by Mahmoud.
You love to see that out of a primary striker in Miradav, throwing a nice low kick there as well. And the hooks as Sanchez started to kind of fade away. Really nice right hand connects for Mahmoud Miradav on Andrew Sanchez as this pick just continues to look worse and worse.
I'm pretty happy with my pick, I gotta be honest. But again, this fight could change very fast. If Sanchez gets not knocked down, if he gets one takedown, is able to control Miradav for really any period of time, I do think he'll be able to build upon that. Because again, after that first takedown, you're going to put it in Mahmoud's mind. Okay, he is looking for that wrestling. So if it'll at least make him throw less. And that's going to be a positive for Andrew Sanchez tonight.
You have Mahmoud Miradav now really moving quite well. Sanchez just looking to switch everything up. But again, that power right hand from Miradav really landing. That low kick from his right side really landing on Sanchez. Sanchez not really able to close distance so far.
He's keeping Sanchez guessing a lot. No matter what Sanchez does, Miradav always has a reaction to it. Something that I love to talk about. I love the footwork of Miradav because I really do think takedown defense begins with your footwork. And the fact that Miradav is never just square in front of Sanchez. He's always circling to his left or his right, never giving him just a stationary target to run at. And we start seeing these combinations of Miradav as he looks for a takedown are just phenomenal.
Shoulder strike attempt from Mahmoud Miradav, who clinches with Sanchez. Really nice hook to the body on the break. Very good job here from Mahmoud Miradav early on. We're already past the halfway mark of our first round.
Mahmoud looking good so far.
Andrew Sanchez really trying to land here as, again, we're in the second half of this round. It's been all Miradav so far.
He's really hitting that calf a lot. Right on the back of the leg, too. So you know Sanchez is feeling those already.
Mixing it up as well, leg to leg. Sanchez really trying to unload a hand of his own.
Honestly, Sanchez doesn't have bad movement himself. I do like the open stance from Sanchez. It'll just be curious to see when he finds that perfect happy medium of, okay, when should I be on the offensive and use my wrestling, and when should I try to be light on my feet and strike with my opponent?
Both guys really landing 1-2s of their own, but again, it's Miradav that continues to push a little bit of a pace. You get Sanchez somewhat wise to that leg kick, but again, it's landed. It's continued to land.
I already see a little bit of bruising and some redness on the leg of Sanchez. It's something to look out for moving forward, especially with a wrestler, too. They have to push off their legs constantly, and if you can eliminate one of those weapons, it's really going to help you moving forward.
Really nice kick up the middle that doesn't land for Miradav, but establishes that you're going to have to watch out for the straight strikes in addition to those hooks that you have from Miradav. That one almost lands, just glances by. Forearm on forearm action.
Those overhands Miradav are getting close. Good straight right by Sanchez, though. If he can really time the straight shots off that outside leg kick of Miradav, he will be able to land as the fight progresses.
Sanchez really trying to get in close, trying to do his best work.
Miradov's doing a good job. He's just not landing. Sanchez doing a good job getting his head out of the range, at least. Not really accepting a lot of the big damage. But that overhand right there, if that touches Andrew Sanchez, it is putting him out.
Yeah, it's unfortunate if you're Sanchez. I mean, again, your first shot didn't really work. And then you have a look, and Miradav tried to establish some of the clinch game. You have to kind of think that a guy like that, a guy like Andrew Sanchez, didn't see that coming. You have to think the wrestling's going to come to me. We saw that in some of these fights. Flying knee attempt from Mahmoud Miradav. It's a very interesting fight that we've had so far through this first one. I mean, you talk about a fight being evenly matched as Miradav goes for his own takedown attempt.
And again, I like this too. The fact that both guys are trying to mix it up, especially Miradav. It's not like Andrew Sanchez went out there expecting you to wrestle with him. So it is nice to give him a different look. I think Miradav won that first round. He won that first round. But he didn't land a lot. And that's a little concerning. If he is just missing a lot, and if he continues to miss a lot in the second round, he might overexert himself and get tired. Because every time you do throw that big overhand right and it's not catching anything, that's a lot of energy to just waste.
So let's have a look at the numbers. And Akashdeep, you're not even right. Not whatsoever. But if we go down through it, that's the thing. I mean, the strikes are almost a 3-1 advantage for the fighter out of Uzbekistan here so far for Mahmoud Miradav. And again, you go down through it. You had the clinch attempts. You had the takedown attempt from Sanchez, who's standing. You like to see that, especially for a guy who's had cardio issues in the past. But yeah, I mean, a very evenly matched fight so far between these two guys. We'll go back to our regular view. We'll get the timer ready for the start of our second round. Anthony's saying Miradov's starting to feel it. I don't know. We'll have to see what happens out of that corner. But yeah, I was really surprised in that second round that Miradav wanted to push a pace, especially at the end, of the first round. Surprised that he wanted to go for a takedown.
I'm surprised as well. I understand what he's trying to do. You're trying to give Sanchez a different look, but it's hard to wrestle a primary wrestler, and I wouldn't use my energy trying to take him down. Use your energy to set up your shots. Again, if Miradav just had smarter shot selection in that fight, or in that first round, he would, miss a lot less shots, and he wouldn't be as tired in this round. I think that's a really important thing to bring up. I like his accuracy, I like his power, but if he was just a little bit more contained and didn't let his hands go as much, I think it would pay dividend in the second one.
Sanchez going in there with the hands, really trying to push a pace. Now, his hands are considerably lower than they were in the first round. You don't love to see it. But again, really trying to push a pace now on Miradav.
I like the pressure he's putting on him so far, though. That's what you have to do with a guy like Miradav. You can't let him settle into his combinations and really get comfortable on the feet. You've got to bring the fight to him, and you got to make it ugly.
He's starting to land his right hand, is Sanchez, with Miradav on the back foot.
That leg's getting gross, though. There's some definite swelling on that calf of Sanchez. But again, that overhand right by Miradav, it's not landing. You really got to set that up.
And we got a kick to the cup. And that ends the timer for the round. Now, we're all going to have to try and sync up together. This one's going to be interesting. Really tough to tell when it was live. Where can you buy some FNP merch? Down below in the description, you can find it. We've got the great new shirts, the Under Armour Fight Night Pick shirt that I put on tonight.
Handsome looking shirt, Craig.
It's a nice shirt. Now, FightNightPicks.com. Check out the store over there. And, yeah, should be a good one. Now, Miradov's taken so far 30 seconds. Trying to jump it out. I know I've been hit in the dick before, and it sucks. Glenn doesn't like how we're heavy flexing the merch. Well, Glenn, if somebody asked, I'm going to say.
100%. What's the worst you ever got cup checked in sport? Just a little time for Matt and Craig personal stories.
Hockey puck is probably the worst one. Now, we got 4:08 remaining in this first round. And again, Green King makes a really good point. The fact that Miradav has heat on the overhand. Sanchez has started to land that right straight down the middle. Be interesting to see if he can close the distance right up against the cage. He's feeling it.
He really is. And again, I love the pressure from Sanchez. I like his footwork too. The fact that he is darting in and out. He's not making himself a hittable target for the counters of Miradav.
Oh.
Then he almost gets hit hard there.
Almost some Travis Brown elbows there from Miradav.
He's got his hands locked around the back. If he's able to get this takedown, this might make it interesting. Only on a single now, and he gives it up back in the clinch.
Miradav doing a great job of the takedown defense right there. Looking like he's almost complaining about the old cup check once more, but we didn't really have anything. Jason Herzog, one of the best refs in the game, he will name check on Twitter. 319.
You've got a problem with that. I don't want. Listen, you're Jason Herzog. Not a lot of people are tweeting at you. People are just tweeting about you. So you got to look it up somehow.
3:10 remaining in our second round here. It's been a fast-paced and more competitive second round. Very close one so far. With Sanchez mostly pushing the pace in this one.
Good right hand by Sanchez. Sanchez has shown a great round so far in this fight. He is making it very difficult for Miradav to get into a rhythm. And you've kind of figured out what Muradov's game plan is. He's looking for the calf kick. He's looking for the overhand right. But he's not doing a great job of setting up either one of them so far. And Sanchez is really taking advantage of that.
Yeah, I mean, Sanchez has been a full 180 here in this second round. And, of course, you don't want to sound overly biased for either fighter, but at a time like this, Miradav looking for the counter off the right hand from Sanchez, but it didn't really look like a whole lot landed. And we saw that in the first round, and I had mentioned it, forearm on forearm, but there's a lot of shots that are glancing and not really catching Sanchez flush.
It's one of those classic, again, Brian Ortega talks about it, where sometimes you're too close in on a guy's range. Like, it's hard to punch someone if you have long arms when they're chest to chest with you. That's when the elbows come into effect. And for Miradav, they are finding themselves in that sort of elbowing range. It would be nice if he decided to switch it up through an elbow at the middle instead, as he lands two perfectly placed shots. So maybe I'm wrong. What do I know?
2 minutes and 7 seconds remaining in our second round. Sanchez floats out that lead leg kick up close. Miradav puts everything into a right hand, but it doesn't land. And that's the thing. We've seen Sanchez get wobbled. We've seen him get knocked out with flush shots to the chin. But in this one so far, it's been glancing blows. Nothing's really landed flush. And Sanchez has just continued to pick up steam as this fight's gone on.
He really has been able to. And again, that's sort of the opposite of what you know Andrew Sanchez for. He loves to get tired and he loves to wrestle, but we haven't seen either one of those. He's making it a hard fight for Miradav because he's giving him so much to look at. He's giving him the movement. He's giving him the takedown attempts. He's just making it a tough fight for Miradav to get into a rhythm for.
Andrew Sanchez continuing to push pace. We have 1 minute 25 seconds remaining. Matt the Mick, if I turned it around, you're going to see our soundboard that we have. So the echo is not too bad in this room because it's a really weird office that we have. Ooh, nice left hand followed by right from Miradav that lands on Sanchez. His best two shots of the round. Another nice right hand lands for Miradav. Now he's starting to pick up steam.
He's just winging that right hand, though. I'd like to see him set it up a little bit more. Right now, he's just throwing Hail Mary after Hail Mary after Hail Mary. And yes, percentage-wise, eventually one might land, but it's not the game plan that you really want to bring into the fight.
You have Sanchez doubling up and tripling up on a jab, and I know that's a conversation we've had a lot lately. It's one of those things where, whoa, really good head movement by Sanchez on that leg kick by Miradav. The head kick attempt from the lead leg. Really nice right hand from Sanchez lands. We have 38 seconds remaining here. Uptown, you got to. It's really tough to try and ship stuff from Canada to the States. It costs a lot of money. Brandon, it's tough because in this second round too, and I mean, that's the one thing. You don't want to fall into the Rogan traps. You don't want to give it too much for one guy. But in this round, it's been a total 180 from what we had in the first. And in the first...
I've got Mahmoud winning this fight. I think he's going to win this fight. I predicted him to. I don't think he won this round, though.
No, that's the thing, too. I mean, we have 9 seconds remaining in our second round. Ooh, nice right hand lands for Miradav here.
It'll be interesting going into the third because Miradav at the end of that second round was starting to land good shots on Sanchez. It seems like the movement of Sanchez has slowed down a little bit, and he's kind of like Allen Iverson in like 2009. You knew once he missed that first step, it was going to go downhill pretty quick. With Sanchez, you knew once he did start to get a little bit tired and he wasn't able to evade some of those bigger looping shots of Miradav, they were going to start to land. You could start to see a little bit of the damage on the nose of Sanchez.
We had about the same level of strikes going for both fighters in that second round. Again, the discrepancy was about at a 3-1 for Miradav in the first. Sanchez starting to close the gap a little bit in that one as we continue down through the unofficial stats from the Ultimate Fighting Championships website. But if we're going and having a look at this one and you're trying to score it, Definitely, it was a first round for Miradav, 10-9. The second round was close. I've got it 10-9 for Sanchez, but you can make an argument either way.
It really depends on how heavily you want to weigh the end there from Miradav. Because yes, I would argue he was landing the more damaging shots, but you only know that because of the damage on Sanchez's face. Like, Sanchez landed a lot of good, clean shots on Miradav. He's not showing the damage as much. So I'm going to pick Sanchez, but it's either Muradov's up 20-18 or it's a 19-19 fight heading into the third.
We get to the start of our third round here.
It's too bad all you guys are having streaming issues. Did Dana White just set people up outside of whoever runs ESPN's house? Because that's starting to see what it sounds like.
There we go. We have the start of our third and final round. Sanchez, Miradav on our main card. Appreciate everybody tuning in. Cam, a lot of people asking what fight's on, but we've got it in front of us. You get Andrew Aldierte Sanchez taking on Mahmoud Miradav. After this, you have I and Calderwood, Hooker Chandler, and then your main event between Conor McGregor and one really tough out in Louisiana's Dustin Poirier.
He's starting to land, yeah. See?
Lot of fire in that right hand from Miradav.
Right now, Andrew Sanchez is like Iverson when he was in Memphis. Like, he's not at Philly when they got him back when he retired, but it's pretty close to the end.
Yeah, really surprised again. We had great striking out of Sanchez in the second round, but we didn't really see any wrestling from him whatsoever. We did see it in the first. We saw that initial takedown attempt that was stuffed, and then Miradav try and work some of that clinch work. But yeah, that's an interesting game plan choice from a guy like Sanchez, especially Turman in the last fight, hands down. Nice combination there by Sanchez. Miradav, though, that right hand cocked. It is looking good so far.
Oh, Miradav has it not figured out, but he's doing what Darren Till likes to do. Darren Till will wait, and when you crash towards him, he just meets you with one contact point. Muradov's doing that. It's just only with the overhand right now, but seems to be landing more often than not.
He's doing a good job. Let's have a look through here. At least give these guys some thumbs up. Joe Dirt trying to help us out here with the stream. These guys are really starting to throw. We've got a great third round on hand. Miradav really starting to land that right hand. It is starting to get closer and closer here.
He's got to shorten it up, though. I don't like how he's looping it every single time. You see a lot of the time, he's missing far, and that's not something you really see often in MMA. Beautiful shot to the body, though, by Miradav. It would be nice if he did. If he feinted the right hand, tried to get the reaction time of Sanchez down, and then went to go on and throw it. See, like he did right there.
3 minutes just about remaining here. You have the combination from Sanchez, but Sanchez almost similar to the very first fight that we had on this card. You had Albazi, you had Zhumagulov. Zhumagulov was just going hard one shot, hard 1-2. That's what you're getting out of Sanchez so far. Another nice right hand lands for Miradav. Nice jab there. Really doing a good job.
Again, I'm kind of surprised. Sanchez used to be such this wrestling-heavy fighter, and the fact that he's gone away from it to such a degree. I understand his striking looks really good right now, and I think he could outstrike definitely UFC caliber middleweights by the way that he looks right now. This isn't the guy I want to be testing that against, though. I would like to see a little bit more of the wrestling out of Sanchez, because you can see, when he's just throwing the hands, he's short every single time. He's not using his feet in combination with his hands, and using his movement to get in on Miradav. He's either using his movement to get out, as he lands a really nice right hand there. Oh, big right hand. He's hurt.
Whoa!
Bad. Sanchez on baby deer legs. He's hurt bad. That overhand right hurt him.
That third round TKO. Who had that one in the chat?
TKO. And
that's
they
it.
stopped
Oh, boy.
Wow. What an overhand right.
What a finish for Mahmoud Miradav.
That was the shot?
He deserves a ranked fighter. And then the question becomes,
okay, now
who do you give him to? Now, he's hopping out. Dana White popping up. Let's have a convo about what we need to do next. But he definitely deserves a little bit of that bonus money. Now we know you had the Pena finish, you had Marina Rodriguez, now you have Mahmoud Miradav with a huge finish win there. And I mean, you look at a stacked middleweight division, Heinisch is at 15, he's got a fight book. Brad Tavares just getting a win at 14. You have Omari Akhmedov coming off of a win here very recently. Shabazian, Weidman's got a fight booked. Holland's open, but you're not going to give him Holland. Hall has Weidman. If we're having a look at this, I would think
he's not fighting anyone in the top 15, Craig. Let's be honest.
I would think a guy like either Omari Akhmedov or Brad Tavares is probably who he's going to get next. I mean, you can't deny a guy like this. 3 huge wins so far in the UFC. Like, a big finish like that over a guy like Sanchez.
You think you have good boxing? Fight Sean Strickland. He's not even in the top. This is my problem. It's hard to say a guy deserves a top 15 opponent next when there's so many good fighters at middleweight. Like, eventually you are going to have to get some of those top guys who are outside the rankings to cannibalize each other. And I do think Mahmoud Miradav is going to be faced with another one of those fights. This is a phenomenal win, don't get me wrong. But knocking out Andrew Sanchez is something that I've seen Ryan James be able to do. And it's nothing against Ryan James. It's not comparing him to Mahmoud Miradav. It's just I've seen it be done before. Mahmoud Miradav didn't put on a performance that says, okay, you're now ready to fight one of those top guys. Maybe Edmund Shabazian coming off a loss since he is ranked right now, but I gotta be honest, I don't really see him getting a ranked guy next. I think he will get one of those kind of Brennan Allen, Sean Strickland types, one of those guys who beating them doesn't do a lot for your career. They're just super, super hard fights to go up against.
Bren saying that we're 3 minutes behind. Hey, pause it. Just pause it and wait. Hang out. That's the way she goes, though. You look at a fight like this, again, Miradav really took over in that third round. Obviously, he wins it by finish. You see the breathe rate strips on Sanchez. I mean, that nose looked like a stick of butter in July from a call that I've heard before. The Steve McIntyre hockey fight against Eric Nielsen from Fredericton, New Brunswick, Canada. But yeah, good fight overall. Really interesting one. Obviously, you know, I took the underdog in this one. Didn't really feel the most confident, but again, I already hit the parlay. I'm just here for fun.
I put like $3 on Miradav to win inside the distance, so I made like $5, but it's not really enough to get crazy excited about on stream. It was a good performance by Miradav. Again, he showed me what you're going to show me when you beat a guy like Andrew Sanchez. Does he have good defensive wrestling? Well, Sanchez went for a few shots. He had the hands tied together once, and Miradav didn't have to keep it on the feet. So you didn't get taken down by Andrew Sanchez, which I do think is a small victory just in and of itself. And you knocked him out in the third round, so you do carry your power late into a fight. Other than that, I don't know if I learned that much about Mahmoud Miradav in this fight. If that makes any sense.
I would say, I was very surprised in that first round. You're going to shoot, you're going to try and attempt to clinch with a guy like that. It at least shows me that Mahmoud Miradav has a more complete game than just that boxing, just that team money, team connection. That's one of those things that you just love to see. And a guy like this, has such a high ceiling. The win streak continues.
Oh, yeah.
And again, if we're talking about ranked fighters, there's only a few of them that have open spots. You're not going to shoot above the top 10. You're not going to shoot into the top 5. So Shabazian's open. But again, he's coming off a loss and a pretty one-sided loss at that. You've got Omari Akhmedov coming off of a win, which, hey, big win over Tom Breeze. But that's the thing. What does Omari Akhmedov do? You're ranked 13th. You just beat an unranked guy. You lost to Chris Weidman before that. It's pretty tough. They could match him up against Shabazian, both ranked fighters. They could match him up against Brad Tavares. But one of these three is most likely going to get matched up with somebody that's out of the rankings. And I know Tavares, Akhmedov 2 wins, and then Shabazian on the losing end. It's tough to try and figure out. As we have a super chat from Ramon saying, Matt, now you made $10 on
Well,
Inside
thank
the
you.
Distance.
I do appreciate that. That's very nice of you. I do appreciate it. Now, hopefully Michael Chandler can win, and we've all had a good night betting-wise.
All right, Miradav making the walk out. It's a slow walk.
It is.
We have to take some pictures, too.
Enjoy it. You know, you're on a 14-fight win streak, and most of those have come by finish, all right? If you want to take 20 minutes walking out of the cage, take 20 minutes walking out of the cage. You're not hurting my feelings.
Now, Matt, our next fight, you've got Joanne Calderwood taking on Jessica Ai, and this was a fight where we flip-flopped about the picks. You ended up on question mark kicks going with Joanne Calderwood, so we have to hold you hard and fast to it.
I'm fine with that.
You've got Jessica Ai, who is difficult. She's just difficult.
Please elaborate, Craig. Why is Jessica Ai difficult? Trust me, I can explain, but I'd love to get your perspective on this.
She's difficult to get a straight answer out of. She needs to take that Lauren Murphy turn.
So, you know how, here's a good example. Before NBA players do, a GQ interview or something, sometimes they will reference, I just did, media training right before this. They kind of give them some cues. Jessica Ai needs media training. And it's, a kind of a rude thing to say because it is based on her personality, but just the way she comes off on camera, she doesn't come off as the most likable person. And it's hard to judge someone's character because I've never met her before. But all the things she's saying, they're not really things that get you excited for a Jessica Ai fight. Joanne Calderwood does a good job selling her fights. I know what I'm going to get from Joanne Calderwood. She's going to be polite. And that's going to be it. But that's her thing. For Jessica Ai, she gets just way too emotional about the fight sometimes. She gets very... I just don't have a good read on her, if I can be completely honest. People call her cringe, but it's not like the self-aware cringe that Henry Cejudo brought into the cage, where it's okay, I'm going to do this, I realize what I'm doing. It's one of those, wink, wink, we all kind of realize what we're doing things. Whereas for Jessica Ai, it's just I'm going to act kind of toxic all the time. And it's not the best look, really.
It's really tricky, and it's one of those ones where how much do you weigh into that one when you look on a fight? Joe Dirt didn't bet on it. I didn't either. So
I did not. Again, I flip-flopped my pick, the last minute possible, like right before the event started. I had Jessica Ai all week long. But again, I guess I have a little bit of time to explain why I switched. Jessica Ai is a very emotional fighter, and we've seen that work to her benefit, but we've also seen it kind of bite her before. And I do think the Cynthia Calvillo fight is a very important fight to bring out, because Jessica Ai probably should have won that fight. Cynthia Calvillo is better on the ground as a grappler. Her jiu-jitsu is better, but on the feet, Jessica Ai should have been able to win that fight. And the fact that Jessica Ai, she was just so like, oh, I'm going to try to knock you out. She was throwing a lot behind all of her shots, and you saw it really affected her cardio down the stretch. If she comes into this fight, there is quite a bit of bad blood between these two. I say that, it's kind of one-sided bad blood. Like, Jessica Ai takes every chance she can to talk bad about Calderwood, and Calderwood does kind of try to, like, retaliate, I guess, but it's a very odd fight hype-wise.
The one thing that I do like about this one, and Jessica Ai had issues with the weight cut before. She had, gallbladder issues, appendix issues. Correct me where I'm wrong there, but she had that issue to try and overcome. It's not a problem anymore. Made weight successfully for this one. You love to see it.
Exactly.
And you talk about the bad blood in a fight like this. It's really difficult. I mean, right there, hey guys, go easy on Ai. Wouldn't
should drink water every day. Stay hydrated.
That one's tough. And Justin saying you should drink water every day. You know what, Justin? For you,
I've drank like 7 of these bottles today.
let's drink some Ai.
Drink some whiskey too while I'm here.
Drink some Ai. We'll drink some water there. We get the proper 12 for later on tonight. I know a friend of the show, Marcus Deegan, would be all about that on the What Happens Here podcast. But yeah, I mean, now we have an NFL commercial that has nothing to do with fighting whatsoever.
Okay, so you're a Browns fan. You have quite a bit to look forward to, which is nice. I tell everyone I'm a Dolphins fan. Don't know much about them. I just know they're about to get a real good quarterback.
Yeah, the trouble, Cale Graham brings up a really good point. Calderwood has never been knocked out, lost a couple decisions, few submissions. Ai's 50-50 decision, and has one professional sub. That's the thing. If you see Jessica Ai pushing a pace early, more than likely going to get a win. I mean, Joanne Calderwood on the back foot, not one of the best fighters. And listen, not many fighters are good on the back foot. But this night has been one of those nights where I presented a case for both fighter, and then when I go to make up my mind on my prediction, they've been wrong more than they've been right. But at least I laid the groundwork.
So, okay, your path to victory for Jessica Ai. If you are in Jessica Ai's corner, what are you telling her to beat Joanne Calderwood?
Don't think about your time in Cleveland. Don't think about strong style. Just think about Vegas. And in a fight like this, again, push a pace, you have to be volume heavy. Really start to land on Calderwood and try to avoid the clinch, because you do not want to clinch up with a fighter like Joanne Calderwood. Her elbows in there, definitely lethal. And this is one of those fights, you talk about a 50-50 fight, this is definitely one of those fights.
Oh, 100%. I'll be curious to see if Calderwood can really get her offense going, especially in the clinch. It's going to be a long night for Jessica Ai. There's not a lot of women's fighters who use their Muay Thai clinch nearly as well as Joanne Calderwood. Like, she is at the top of the list because she just has a really good feel for the control on the back of the head. And it's something that you don't really think about all the time when you think about MMA. But like Anderson Silva, when he would get this position on you, there was nothing you could do. Like, you could use every single appendage you had to try to break that grasp, and he would not get rid of it. And he could control your whole body from the neck. Calderwood does a really good job controlling her opponent, starting with the back of their neck. She's got really good strikes coming over the top. The thing I do worry about, though, if you back up Calderwood, and if Ai just does throw a lot at her, because what Jessica Ai does really well is she throws enough at you to keep you from throwing back at her. So it's just kind of, okay, I'm going to throw a lot of offense. Even if I'm not landing, and maybe not landing those damaging shots, what I'm doing is keeping your hands up and keeping you defensive throughout the fight. So this fight does come down to who is moving forward. I think I can simplify it that easy. Like, if I was in Calderwood's corner, I would say back up Jessica Ai, try to put her up against the cage as much as possible, and try to work in your Muay Thai.
And for Joanne Calderwood, I mean, you look at the last fight for both these fighters. They're both coming off a loss. To me, again, I said this in question mark kicks, it seemed in my mind's eye the Calderwood fought forever ago. That fight against Jennifer Maia seems like it was a year or two ago, but it was only 5.5 months ago. That was a tough one because, again, do you just wait it out for your title shot, or do you take a fight in the interim? We saw Frankie Edgar lose out on a shot like that. We saw Joanne Calderwood lose out on a shot like that. So you got to try and think, if the winner of this fight is able to do something impressive, where does it seed them? Because I think for Calderwood, it means a lot more than it would for Ai, because of the highlight reel knockout that was sustained from Valentina Shevchenko in Jessica Ai's title bid.
No, I agree 100%. here's the thing. Neither one throws kicks, which is weird, because Calderwood, she will throw a little bit. She'll throw inside kicks to the legs and whatnot. She's not a big body or head kicker. Same thing with Jessica. Jessica just doesn't really even throw kicks. So the range in which they will be fighting at, they're either going to be all the way on the inside or all the way on the outside to where neither of them can strike. So I'm just kind of curious to see who's going to initiate a lot of this offense, because there are going to be a lot of those 50-50 exchanges where both are throwing. You're not going to be really sure who's winning out on a lot of them. So I'm just curious who will be backing up first.
You have Scotland's Joanne Calderwood making the walk here. Again, as far as reach and height, very similar for both of these women. You really got to try and break it down in a lot of different ways, which we've done our best to do. But you have to think finishing instinct. We've seen Joanne Calderwood finish more of her fights. Again, it was pointed out the one submission win on the record of Jessica I. The significant strike numbers are absolutely insane. Joanne Calderwood has been in some nasty, nasty fights. And you look at it for Jessica I, she's in the positive. It's a good number. You really like the striking defense out of her as well. In terms of the grappling, that's a tricky one. Definitely side with Calderwood. And that's one of those ones where I look at all these numbers and everything favors Calderwood. That's why it's a tough one to try and predict. And again, I said, it's a 50-50. I wouldn't throw any of my own money on this one. I'm just here for the love of the game.
I don't like that you brought up the stat point, because it kind of goes against everything I've ever said about MMA, and now I'm picking the person with better stats. Stats don't mean anything in MMA. They do a little bit, but I do stand by this. MMA is the only sport we can throw a 25-point three-point shot, and it's just kind of the case. Like, you have that Hail Mary effect, and you have the knockdowns, and there's just so much that can happen in an MMA fight that I find it is really hard to go by the stats. I do like the overall work rate of Joanne Calderwood in this fight. Cardio-wise, I am a little curious. I do think Jessica I might have the better cardio out of the two, but again, if she comes into this fight really emotional and she's trying to throw a lot on her shot, she's just going to get more tired that much faster.
I like the smile. An early smile from Jessica I on the walkout. She's going to throw her hat to nobody in attendance. That's a classic Greg Hardy slapping somebody's hand in Florida that was there, which was pretty weird. This is one of those, it is a tricky one. And then if you want to talk as far as seeding in the division, let's have a look and see where these two women are ranked, because women's flyweight wide open. Andrade, Chukagian, 3 Lauren Murphy, 4 Maya Calvillo. I is at 6, Calderwood is at 7.
You know who the winner fights, Craig? Our girl.
I don't think Lauren Murphy gets a fight like that. That's a tricky thing. I think Lauren Murphy fights Chukagian maybe. And then you have to take the winner of this fight, 6 and 7. If I wins, Maya. And then if Calderwood wins, Calvillo.
Here's my problem with this division. And if I'm wrong, please let me know right away. No one who isn't named Valentina Shevchenko is going to beat Jessica Andrade. Like, not a single other one of these women have a chance against even Andrade. This is my problem. Like, Andrade is going to beat all of them, and I'm very confident in that. I'm overconfident about it. Jessica Andrade has power in her hands, has jiu-jitsu, has a lot of the problems, and just a lot of these skills that not a lot of other women in this division have shown yet. And you see what she was able to do to the number one contender in one round. She stopped her with a hook to the body like it was absolutely nothing. And the fact that she does have the wrestling and jiu-jitsu to go on top of it, I like Jessica I like Lauren Murphy, I like Joanne Calderwood. None of them are beating Jessica Andrade, and she's not even the champ. Valentina Shevchenko is the champ. So my issue with this whole division is right now you have two fighters who are head and shoulders above the rest. I don't see anyone beating Valentina who isn't Jessica Andrade. Now, we have seen, at least as of late, there's starting to be a few chinks in the armor of Valentina Shevchenko. She's not the perfect fighter that we once believed she was. Because there was a time where people were like, okay, you can't hit her. She's got great wrestling. Her top control is insane. She has submissions off her back. She submitted Juliana Pena off her back. How do you beat this woman? Jennifer Maia proved that you can hold her down and keep her there. And I think if Jessica Andrade could go out there and start to wrestle Valentina Shevchenko, that'll be an interesting fight. So I think all these women really have to cross their fingers that Andrade can beat Valentina, and then it'll open up the division maybe a little bit more. But it's weird. We really do have one of those Cain Velasquez, Junior Santos, and then everyone else.
Stills E, you don't spit anymore. Like after 2020, there's no more spitting. You can't spit.
No, you can't.
No, that's not allowed. So we have this fight where, again, we both disagree. The stats are on Calderwood's side. She is the favorite coming into this fight. I went with a lot of underdogs on this one, and unfortunately it wasn't a lot of the underdogs, but the tiny parlay hit, and I'm happy. I'm living my best life tonight.
Did your arm ever get hurt from patting yourself on the back?
I'll let it happen. Calderwood representing Scotland in this one. You have the US of A's own Jessica I. And again, for Jessica I, definitely didn't go her way in her last fight, and it was one of those ones where it was hard to predict that Calvillo would have came out so strong in that fight.
I mean, your boy did predict Cynthia Calvillo was going to win that fight. And
I
again,
did too.
My turn to do that. I won a lot of money that night. Jessica, I just don't really know what... I know what she does well, but it's really hard to gauge her skill set against the skill sets of other fighters, if that makes any sense. I understand I'm talking riddles sometimes, but like... Her fighting style is sort of catered towards split decisions, where it is a lot of those 50-50 exchanges, and it's, okay, well, she did land, but she is getting hit too, so it's always hard to tell where a Jessica Ai fight's going to go. Normally, it's going to go to decision if she's not fighting Valentina, and then it's a coin flip from there. So hopefully, Calderwood used the clinch.
Try to sync up with us as we get going. We'll have the clock for the start of our first round between Joanne Calderwood and a really tough out in Jessica Ai. Here we go. The start of the first round. Oh, we're going in the pocket. Do not love the clinch, but Jessica Ai's all about it. And this so far has been the best 10 seconds of a round that I think we've seen tonight. Really nice uppercuts from Jessica Ai. You had the nice knees from Dr. Knievel in Joanne Calderwood.
So, again, this is not a good game plan for Jessica Ai. I understand you want to close the distance. The clinch is not where you're going to have your most success. Now, I get it. Maybe she's looking for the takedown. Calderwood's ground game is a little bit suspect. But on the feet, I wouldn't even risk these exchanges. You saw, even in the short amount of time that they were on the feet early on, Calderwood was able to land a few really nice elbows. And that's not really the storyline that you want this fight to take place on. You want it to be in the middle of the cage, or you want to be shooting for takedowns, which, of course, Jessica Ai seems to be doing.
I'm very surprised that this has been the game plan so far. I mean, 50 seconds, almost a minute into our first round. And Jessica Ai's going out there wanting a hockey fight out of this one.
She really is.
This is a very surprising game plan out of her.
Good right hand.
Both women really exchanging.
Who's the best hockey fighter ever?
Steve McIntyre.
I think it's Steve Bosse.
Or Bob Probert. But Steve McIntyre is the OG of hockey fighting. Now, again, Ai really trying to push that pace, get that head placement. We've seen that in some of the other fights. That's one of those things that you see more and more in MMA. The real push the head, trying to pummel into some underhooks to try and work a takedown. But Jessica Ai just clinching for clinch sake, and as we said, a little bit of a keys to victory before the fight. You probably don't want to clinch with Calderwood. That's been all Jessica Ai's really done. The right hands have landed.
Calderwood is working on that low kick early. It'll be interesting to see. Again, Jessica Ai's doing a good job making this fight ugly when it is on the inside, but you could tell that Calderwood's the much more polished striker out of these two.
Really landing that right hand is Ai. But again, Calderwood with straight shots up the middle, the nice knees when it comes in close, and you had mentioned it and accentuated it as well. That leg kick was working for Calderwood. But when Ai really stops the pace, this is one of those things where it'd be interesting to know how much she's just draining on her opponent, Calderwood. Calderwood looks very crisp on her feet.
Ooh, good front kick to the face, too. Again, I love how Calderwood does switch up her strikes. She does have a very wide array. She has a very deep toolbox. And I do like that she doesn't just do the same thing over and over again. She will go to the clinch. She will have some of her longer range weapons. And so far, we have been able to see that. But again, Jessica Ai does like to do that kind of ugly fighting where it is going to be a lot of those 50-50 exchanges. So far, we've seen that.
A lot of good names thrown out there for best hockey fighters. But again, you want to talk reminiscent of a hockey fight. You're clinching up. You've got the uppercut. You got the right hand by Ai. Again, Dr. Knievel really doing a great job here. And if you want to talk hockey fights, we saw the Bruins play the Leafs, and there were 3 fights in that one. Colton Orr was in a fight. Chara was in a fight.
Was Milan Lucic?
Lucic might have been in a fight that night.
He was scary back in the day.
Hal Gill, great defenseman. Now, in this fight, again, Jessica Ai continuing to pressure up against the cage. One of the strangest things we've seen tonight out of a night full of odd fights.
Here's the thing. This is what she's doing. She's at least winning time right here. And for Jessica Ai, I think that's sort of the game plan. It's not like she's going to go out there and finish Joanne Calderwood. Great strikes for these two do separate in the clinch especially. But again, Jessica Ai is very committed to these takedowns, and I understand the ground game of Calderwood is not great, but I'm surprised that she has taken this game plan, especially early on. Maybe if she did go for some takedowns later on when both of them were tired, I would understand that, but for that to be one of the focal points of her game plan, because that's what she ends up getting herself into every single time. On the exits, Calderwood's making her pay.
Yeah, this is a really interesting strategy here. Again, we get back into a clinch situation. It's both fighters landing. Nice kicks from Calderwood here. And Calderwood's definitely having a lot more success from range so far.
Oh, 100%. And again, she's more polished on the feet. You can tell. Jessica I will land shots because she's just throwing so much in high volume, but she's not landing those big damaging shots like you see from Calderwood. Calderwood's hitting her with elbows over the top. She's hitting her with good calf kicks as well. Those are things that are going to pile up as the fight continues.
Really interested to see the stat that did pop up on the broadcast. The fact that Calderwood had over 20 strikes to the body. Pretty tough to see on the broadcast that was actually the case.
It's a lot of those knees, I think, though, like you see there. But again, Jessica I keeps on going for those little, like, Ben Askren rabbit punches in the clinch, and they're not really doing a lot. Now, yes, maybe she is going to win this round just by overall volume, but I don't love what I see from Jessica I as a striker at distance.
Yeah, both women starting to slow down here.
Michael Chandler fights next.
Yeah, this is a really difficult one. You have I landing another uppercut. Those have really found a home throughout the start of this round.
Oh, they definitely have. But again, it's just a lot of 50-50. It's a lot of 50-50. It's okay, I is closing the distance, but while she closes the distance, she's getting hit. And while she's exiting, she's also getting hit. But she's also hitting Calderwood on her way in. So it's a lot of those 50-50s. I do think Calderwood's landing the harder shots, though.
This would be a really interesting round to try and score as we have the end of our first round.
See what Twitter's saying.
Bring it on over to the stat line, Matt. Joanne Calderwood landed more than double the strikes at a higher percentage. Be interested to see what everybody is scoring that first round or how you're scoring it. Let us know over in the comment section. That was a tougher round to score than I thought it really would be.
A lot of people saying Calderwood 10-9 round one. That's what I have so far. I do think she landed a much higher volume. I like the elbows and the clinch as well. It was a great first round, though. For Jessica I, don't go for the takedown anymore. You're getting beat up every time you're at that close range, and I don't understand why you continue to put yourself in that position.
Both of us going with 10-9 for Calderwood in the first round. Very good one, though, so far. I mean, that was probably one of the most explosive, quickest fights that we've had so far on this card. We've had some good ones.
We definitely have, but no, this is getting off to a phenomenal start. The bad blood is justified.
All right, we'll bring it back over. We'll get ready for the start of our second round between I and Calderwood on a great card. We appreciate everybody for tuning in, everybody that's tossed up a like, that's subscribed to the channel. It's been an incredible last year for the boys as we get started for a second round between I and Calderwood. Another nice kick and a nice right hand for Calderwood. Really continues to land those knees to the body.
I keeps on putting herself in that position and keeps on getting just pebbled with elbows over the top. Stop going for the clinch if you're getting hit in the clinch.
Yeah, it's a really interesting strategy again for I, and it's not like she's been shooting for the takedown.
Right hand.
Calderwood continues to land short punches.
Oh,
really nice front kick.
Calderwood's definitely landing the harder strikes out of the two. She's got phenomenal kicks. The elbows are looking really good too, especially over the top. And I do agree with Phoenix there. The body shots are starting to add up from Calderwood. I think Jessica I has better cardio out of these two fighters. But again, that body work is going to kind of make it a much more even playing field.
I continues to pressure this fight, but Calderwood doing a good job off her back foot. And again, this is a total 180 from what anyone could have predicted. Calderwood's not normally very good off her back foot. She's landed volume. Jessica I search for clinch positions as she now almost pulls guard.
She kind of fell. Yeah. Remember when Jessica I fought for a title? That was wild, wasn't it?
This is something to behold. You have Jessica I that, again, both fighters 34. You have fighters that have fought in different divisions, kind of coming into 25. Having some success. They've switched gyms later on in their careers. I mean, Calderwood spent a lot of time at TriStar working with Mr. John Wood. These days for I, she goes from Strong Style in Cleveland, moves her camp to Vegas. I's really chasing in this one, though, and that's the thing. I mean, Calderwood isn't doing a great job moving side to side, but it's more I moving forward, and she gets met with a lot of shots from Calderwood. It'll be interesting to see how the volume goes as we approach 3 minutes remaining in our second round.
Fight is starting to wear on Calderwood a little bit. She does look a little tired, so it'll be interesting to see if she can at least win this round and make it so, okay, I need to finish in that last one. But this round is up to anyone right now.
Yeah, it'll be a really interesting one. Let's bring up the stats per round. I mean, again, more shots here from Calderwood early. Quite a few more from Calderwood in the second round. Another straight one up the middle. Calderwood doing a great job so far here. Again, yeah, we're not seeing the pace, but we're not seeing the pace from either woman here so far in our second round.
Oh no, and again, that first round, there was such a high amount of volume being thrown in that first round. Again, Calder was doing a phenomenal job making her pay on the exits from the clinch. Something Dana Cormier talks about a lot, and the best example I can ever think of is when Jan Blachowicz, old Polar Pop himself, fought Luke Rockhold. When they were exiting the clinch, every single time Jan was making him pay, and of course when he knocked him out, they're exiting the clinch. Rockhold has his hands down, and Jan Blachowicz makes him pay for it. Now, of course, Calderwood doesn't have Jan Blachowicz-esque power. She doesn't have that Polish power, but she is making her pay every single time that they do end up in those engagements.
Glenn making a good fight. This is like a bar fight. You know, this is an end of the night coat check type of fight, and it goes out to the parking lot. Joanne Calderwood continues to whip those kicks up, and that's one thing that, again, didn't really expect to see the leg kicks out of Calderwood, but from Jessica I, we're going straight boxing. We didn't train kicks whatsoever.
Jessica I got a Jessica I, you know? And it's a little interesting to see how she's not switching anything up. We saw a little bit of the wrestling in that first round. She hasn't gone to it at all in the second, and maybe that was because she was starting to get lit up a little bit in those clinches, but I would like to see her switch it up a little bit. She's just standing at range with a very credentialed Muay Thai fighter, and that's probably not your best path to victory. Like you had said, how did you say Jessica I was going to win this fight if you were her coach?
You got to pressure it and throw a lot of volume. Keep her on the back foot.
She's kind of been able to do that, but every time she meets Calderwood, Calderwood's got something big to make her pay for it.
Looks like there's a cut on the face of Jessica I. Difficult to see so far. The dude bet this fight to go to the distance. A little more action than you want. Yeah, I would anticipate that.
It's been a good fight so far, though.
Oh, it's one of those classic. I still got a little bit of popcorn left, but that's a pop and popcorn fight.
Oh, yeah.
I guess if it's the end of the night and it's at a bar, bar nuts and popcorn.
How many bars have you stood outside and watched two women beat each other up?
It hasn't been a lot of it. Royce 2 cents saying, what round is it? We're getting close to the end of the second round. Everybody filling Royce in there in the comment section. I get the takedown. Only 30 seconds to work here, and you've got Dr. Knievel getting her back up to the cage really quick. Can I keep her down? Even if she keeps her down, it's not like you're really going to win the round out of this. She's got to land some convincing shots here if she's even going to do anything that's going to score.
I definitely think Calderwood's up 2-0 right now.
Yeah, it's going to be really difficult. If you're Jessica I, you definitely need a finish after this one. You have the striker, Joanne Calderwood, really outlanding her unofficially to the head, 31-20 for Calderwood, to the body, 24-16, and to the legs, 20-4. As I ends on top, but yeah, it's really difficult. El Yoka Doom saying, bro, what happened to the predictions? They haven't been great, but it's been fun.
Listen, they're not all winners, you know? They've been good fights. I feel like our analysis is pretty spot on a lot of these, so hopefully you don't just listen to our prediction at the end. Hopefully you watch through the video, because, you know, we kind of know what we're talking about, or at least I'd like to think to every now and then, but this fight's been interesting. Calderwood seems to be a little bit more fatigued than I right now, but I is definitely wearing the damage a lot worse. I'm curious to see what I is going to switch up in this third round, because I do believe she's down 2-0, and she's really going to need a finish, or she's just going to need such an overwhelming round to try to get a draw, but it'll be interesting. I don't like what I'm seeing from Jessica right now, though.
Yeah, I've got a 20-19 for Calderwood so far.
2019?
Sorry, 20-18. No 10-10s on my scorecard, but it's been a good fight. It's been an interesting fight. But our next two fights are going to be a lot better. So let's flip it on over back to our timer. We'll get ready for the start of our third round between I and Calderwood in an interesting fight closer to the top of our women's flyweight division. Mr. Keith Peterson, as they say, the no-nonsense Keith Peterson. And you're going with a 10-8 in the last round. I don't know about that.
Again, I's definitely going to be going for the takedown. She was able to get it near the end of that second round, but I's not a wrestler, and you can tell that she's not. It's not like she's even an MMA fighter who's gotten decent at wrestling. Like, who's a good example? Gilbert Burns is a great example. Like, jiu-jitsu, it was always there, but now we start to see the development in his wrestling. Jessica I still has very basic wrestling, so I'm surprised that it's such a big part of her game plan when she hasn't really been able to show these different layers of her wrestling game.
And I mean, another point, this should be a pink slip fight. Yeah, they're both 34, but you got to think, I mean, we're talking, you know, top 10 fighters in a division that needs fighters, and we've seen a lot of up-and-comers recently. I know, you know, they showed it on the screen. Macy Barber's got a fight against Alexa Grasso. Modafferi losing her fight against Araujo. So there's been some changes so far, and we continue to add. I mean, probably the biggest gain to this division, really, Manon Fiorot getting the win over Victoria Leonardo. That was huge. So you have to kind of think that we're going to get some movers and shakers. and you're going to kind of shake out some of those older talents or some of the fighters that have been losing. It's kind of like men's heavyweight in a sense. But I'm really eager to see who wins this fight, who they get matched up with. And again, for the loser, then you're really talking like you got to win.
I think the loser might be... Okay, Jessica I's in what I'm just going to call now the Elias Theodorou position. She needs a win in every single fight, I think, because I think the UFC is looking for an excuse to get rid of her. Not that harsh, of course, but I do think she's definitely on thin ice.
Jessica I continues to push a pace here. I mean, up against the cage, 3 minutes and 21 seconds remaining. I mean, I just can't work the takedown, and that's the thing. You've got a fighter that's a primary boxer trying to work her wrestling against a fighter in Joanne Calderwood that's all Muay Thai. But that's the thing. It's just very difficult. So if you're you know you need a finish. You have to think possibly ground and pound. But yeah, for Joanne Calderwood doing a great job of just defending the takedown up against the fence.
I'm surprised Keith hasn't broken them up, honestly. It's not like Jessica is really going for a lot in wrestling, and she's not able to land that much from here anyways. She's not going to get this takedown. She doesn't have a leg. She doesn't have any control of the waist right now. She has an inside grip on one of her legs, but again, that's not enough to actually secure a takedown over anyone. I'm really surprised that Keith is letting them stay in this position for so long. His nickname's No Nonsense for a reason. Normally, he gets to it.
I think after the Casey Kenny Dominic Cruz fight, there's still just some residual effects in his head, and the fact that maybe he is going to allow a little bit of nonsense as
Henry
he breaks
Cejudo,
them up.
Cruz.
We get
Casey
a little
Kenny's
bit of
who
a
he fights
breakup.
next.
Yeah, that's a great fight coming up here shortly. Now, I continues to try and push a pace. Calderwood in this clinch is going to beat her every single time. We get about 2 minutes and 10 seconds remaining here. Gino Hero is loving this fight in the comments section. But yeah, I mean, there's not a whole lot to talk about. The first round, you had so much action in that first round. The second round started to slow down slightly. The third round, we've really started to slow. Calderwood's leads continued to kind of grow. And again, for the number 7 ranked Calderwood, really putting on a good show so far.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. Again, she was, not that she was promised a title shot, but it did seem like she was going to be fighting Valentina before she took that Jennifer Maia fight. It was all but confirmed at that point. So it will be curious to see what they do with Calderwood. Of course, the UFC must think quite highly of her if they were willing to put her in there with Valentina in the first place. But right now, it's a weird position at women's 125. You've got Katlyn Chookagian, who for the most part has been able to beat a lot of her opponents.
And Jessica I shooting a takedown attempt. Calderwood sprawls and nothing. It's just nothing.
And the tables do seem to be turned. Jessica I seems to be the much more labored of these two now. I do think that wrestling really took a lot out of her at the start of this round. I think she was putting everything into, if I get this takedown, I might be able to really win this round and sort of win the fight, because in her mind, she probably won the second round, but Joanne Calderwood's striking actually looks really good in this fight. I love what she's been able to do in the clinch. I like her body shots. I like her knees to the body. I'm actually really impressed with what I've seen from Joanne Calderwood.
Joanne Calderwood has looked good in this fight. I mean, it's going to be really difficult when you try and match her up against that upper echelon, those top 5. I mean, even if it ended up being a fight against like a Viviane Araújo, somebody of that ilk, it's going to be difficult moving forward. And the same thing can be said for I, because like we started to allude to, the fact that there's good fighters that continue to move up through the ranks. We have about 30 seconds remaining in our third round between these top 10 ranked women's flyweights. Calderwood starting to push a pace against I.
Good body
landing
shots.
More and more knees to the body is Joanne Calderwood. She's doing a great job here in this third round. And yeah, I mean, this is going to be a really tough fight, especially if you're Jessica I. You got to think that you're down on the scorecards through 2.
Oh, without I assume. But again, we've seen some weird judging so far tonight, so who really knows what's going to happen. But I think Calderwood at a minimum 1 round, 1 and 2. If you want to give her all 3 rounds, be my guest. But I do think Calderwood is able to pick up this win.
That's
good fight, though.
End of that fight between Calderwood and Jessica I. Really interested to see how people were scoring that one over in the comments section. I mean, you look at the total strikes, all in favor of Joanne Calderwood. And again, you had the forward pressure from Jessica I. And in certain fights, sometimes, if that's a last resort, you score that, but not in this one here.
That's why I switched my pick, and boy, am I happy I did. I think Calderwood looked really good. I think Jessica I didn't look all that great either, though. I do think it was kind of a combination of both. Don't enjoy the game plan of Jessica I in this fight. I thought it was very odd. If you're going to go for wrestling, I thought we might have seen, different trip takedowns, or she'd do something a little bit different, but she was really dedicated to that single leg up against the cage. I do not think it was enough to get the win, though. I do really like Calderwood in this one.
Yeah, Jessica I, again, they're showing clinch control time. That's never good if you're trying to pick a winner. Jessica I in that picture, not even looking like a Jessica I. But yeah, I mean, 30-27 for Calderwood in this one. We'll wait for our decision as we wait and wait And wait, maybe it's a very tough one.
Phenomenal fight, though. That was a much better fight than I'd originally thought it was going to be. That's like our Marcin Tybura Ben Rothwell of this card. Like, it was pretty good. I was excited. That was great. Michael Chandler's about to make his UFC debut, though, in less than half an hour. And that's something that just came to mind. Wow, I just got crazy excited again all of a sudden.
That should be a great fight. Akashdeep really looking forward to that one. Bruce Buffer giving us our decision. You'd have to think it's going to go by way of Scotland.
You would assume. If they don't, something's seriously wrong in this world.
Here we go, Bruce.
Sounds like a split. Okay, good.
Joanne Calderwood, your winner by decision.
37-37, 29-28.
37-37.
Or sorry, 30-27, 30-27, 29-28. Goodness.
Yikes. So one of the judges gave a round to Jessica I, but yeah, that's an interesting one. Phoenix Graves bringing up a great point. Clinch control shouldn't matter. You're right. I mean, the only fight I can think of where clinch control could have mattered, Jan Blachowicz when he fought Jacare, like you're kind of grasping at straws as to how, a winner was able to get that one there. But yeah, two judges, 30-27, one judge on the 29-28 as we get finished with our last of the fights before our lightweights come in. And Matt, you've got two great fights. I mean, Dan Hooker is taking on a really tough out Michael Chandler unless you're one half of the Pitbull brothers.
I mean, one half of them probably hates him, and the other half is probably like a low-key fan. Because if you're Patrick, you probably want him to do really well in the UFC because it just looks even better on your behalf. But Michael Chandler, the fact that he's finally in the UFC, and we've talked about this for years now, I wanted Michael Chandler to be in the UFC right after he lost to Brent Primus the first time. And again, he was coming off a loss, but I think that was sort of peak Michael Chandler right then. We might be getting him a year, maybe 2 years past his prime, but Michael Chandler at even 90% of his full talent is still a top 10 talent in the UFC. I'm very excited to see how his skill set does translate, because again, everyone, Bellator, they're the B League, and Michael Chandler's one of the best fighters in the world, and I can guarantee you this, like, even if you think Dan Hooker's going to win, there's no way you think this is going to be an easy fight.
No, and I mean, you look at a guy in Michael Chandler, he's had not just round of the years, he's not just had knockouts of the year. This guy's had fight of the year caliber fights outside of the UFC, and you don't hear that all the time. Multiple fight of the year. And the other thing, too, about a guy like Michael Chandler, and you can rag on it all you want, well, the level of competition, but you look at some of the finishes that he has. Now, again, you look at Dan Hooker, those straight shots up the middle. Henry Morgan doesn't like Chandler. What else? Ian saying Chandler's going to stop Hooker. We'll have to see.
Here's a good thing for Dan Hooker. Low-key, one of the MVPs of Fight Week, I feel like public perception of Dan Hooker's really taken a big turn. Like, I love Dan Hooker, because to me, I don't really care what people say outside the cage. Like, I really only care about their fighting. And it's not like Dan Hooker's out there putting on boring fights. Like, it's fun watching Dan Hooker fight, but you see some of the interviews, and when he does kind of let his personality go a little bit, and he's not so uptight about fighting, like, Dan Hooker's a pretty funny guy. So I do like that at least this week, if nothing else, it's given people the chance to see a little bit more of Dan Hooker.
Yeah, and you always love to see that. Now, for Dan Hooker taking on Michael Chandler, we've seen Dan Hooker take on smaller guys before. He's won some fights, he's lost some fights. For Dan Hooker to get a win in here, what do you expect of a guy like that?
He's going to have to knock him out. I don't think Dan Hooker can win a decision on Mike Chandler. And I get it. This is a 3-round fight, and anyone can go 3 rounds. It's not that difficult, especially when you're speaking about some of the best fighters in the world. Like, I'm not concerned either one of these guys are going to gas by any means. I think Dan Hooker needs to finish, because if this does go round 2, if this does go round 3, we have seen Hooker get fatigued a little bit at the end of fights. We saw the Paul Felder fight. We saw it in the Dustin Poirier fight as well. He will start to wrestle a little bit, become more grappling heavy himself. If he decides to do any of that, he's going to get choked out on the ground. But Michael Chandler on the feet, he's really going to watch out for, of course, that beautiful knee that Dan Hooker can throw up. And Dan Hooker's knees are like, they're on a piston. He can bring them up to your chin so fast, and he really only needs one. If Michael Chandler can avoid that big shot and start to work in his takedowns, I do think he'll be able to win this fight, especially on the mat. But I'm really curious to see if Dan Hooker's takedown defense is where I think it is at, and if he can keep this fight on the feet, how good's Chandler going to look on the feet fighting against a guy like Dan Hooker? Because we can speak to the level of competition that Michael Chandler's fought. He's never fought anyone with the skill set of a Dan Hooker, who's so Muay Thai oriented, who has such beautiful striking from the outside. I'm really curious to see how he, A, gets on the inside of Dan Hooker, and B, reacts to the power coming back his own way.
And that's the thing, and the real question there, I mean, how good is Dan Hooker's takedown defense? 77% so far.
Legit.
We've seen fighters with high takedown defense lose fights here recently and get taken down. We saw it on, Wednesday? We saw it on Saturday as well. So it's not out of the realm of possibilities. But You look at a fight like this, Michael Chandler, what does he have? He has power in his hands. He can set up combinations. He has really good wrestling. What does Dan Hooker have? Really good power on the end of his shots. And we talk about that with a lot of different fighters. But again, the elbows up the middle, the knees up the middle. When it goes to the mat, Dan Hooker has to try and pop his way back up as quick as possible, because I don't see a guy like Dan Hooker really trying to work the submissions off bottom. And a guy like Michael Chandler with so much pressure, top pressure, he's going to be trying to work position to position and really land good ground and pound. The other thing about Michael Chandler, we've seen him in there against fighters who are accredited jiu-jitsu practitioners. Brent Primus is one of those guys where in the second round of their second fight, Primus had him locked up and almost submitted him, and then as
he didn't almost submit him. He had him in a couple bad positions, but again, Michael Chandler's grappling is second to none in the UFC. I don't even think Charles Oliveira would submit him. Like, he's going to be in bad positions from time to time. But you have to understand, if you've watched anything about Michael Chandler in the past, people are going to get mad just because of who I'm about to compare him to. His ground and pound is Khabib-esque. He makes you pay for every second you are underneath him. He's not just standing on top of you and laying and praying. If you go back and watch that Yamauchi fight, Gotti is insanely dangerous off his back. Like, one of the better submission artists in the world. And the fact that Michael Chandler was just able to sit in his guard and pepper him from on top, basically throwing overhand rights from the guy's guard, just beating him into the ground, it's impressive stuff.
And you look at a guy in this fight in Chandler. Again, shorter guy, less reach, mostly going up against bigger guys in the Bellator division. I mean, again, Primus, Yamauchi can't even fight at 55 anymore. They won't let him.
Big guy.
Because he can't make the weight. He's like Drew Dober, kind of. But you look at the wins, great finishes for Chandler. For Dan Hooker, he's fought a who's who in the UFC, and that's one of those things you can really rely on. He's had that 5-round experience as well in the UFC. The last 2 fights, the loss to Poirier. You talk about the win that he had over Paul Felder, who's on commentary tonight. And that's one of those ones where, was it the New Zealand judging? I don't know, but it was a competitive fight against a top-flight competitor. The win over Iaquinta, the win over James Vick, where you finish him in a highlight reel. And again, James Vick's fighting with ex-MMA now, so take that for what it's worth. But it should be a great fight. A lot of people asking how much time. I mean, Dustin Poirier is making the walk on TV, but our next fight is our co-main event between Hooker and Chandler, so it is a little difficult to tell.
100%. I had a point I was going to make about Michael Chandler, but I forgot it, so hopefully it will come back to me shortly. I'm as excited for this fight as I am for the main event. I'm so excited to see Michael Chandler finally make his UFC debut, and I know a lot of other people are out there too, but I'm so curious to see if he is able to get a big win over Dan Hooker. What do you do with him next? Does he fight a Tony Ferguson? Does he fight a Justin Gaethje? I guess it's hard to keep on bringing up Ferguson's name. He's not really at the top of the division anymore. It just breaks my heart, but I'm super excited for this fight. Again, it's probably going to go one way or the other. Could Michael Chandler knock out Dan Hooker on the feet? He could. He has that kind of power in his hands. But Dan Hooker has one of the better chins in all of MMA. He can take absolute insane amounts of punishment. But Michael Chandler's here to give him that. So, super excited for this fight. There we go. The Al Iaquinta fight means a lot. Thank you. That's what I was going to say. The way that Dan Hooker was able to take out Al Iaquinta is really important, because you look at what he was able to do. It was the low calf kick, which really immobilized Al Iaquinta throughout that fight. And from there on, he was just sort of able to pick him apart at range on the feet. Now, Michael Chandler's built a little bit more similar to an Al Iaquinta than he is to, some of the other guys in the division, just a little bit smaller. The difference is, Al Iaquinta has good wrestling, but the way I always think about it is, Al Iaquinta is a great fighter to fight a wrestler. Because he's a good wrestler himself, but he's not like a specialist in just wrestling. But he's a good enough wrestler so that if you're a primary wrestler, he's going to keep the fight standing, and he's a good enough striker to where he can outstrike those
You hear
guys.
that, Kevin Lee?
Exactly. But with Michael Chandler, he's going to be going for the wrestling a lot more than you would have seen from Al Iaquinta. I like Michael Chandler in this fight for a lot of reasons, but I do think he gets it done, and I'm even going to say by ground and pound.
You think that Michael Chandler uses Manscaped? You got to check it out. It's down below in the comments section. Check them out. Manscaped.com. Use the promo code FNP. You'll get 20% off your order and free shipping at Manscaped.com. Make your testes your besties and check them out. Manscaped.com. Now, there's a lot of people taking Hooker. There's a lot of people taking Chandler. This is really a tough one
what
to
other
try
choices do they have?
and figure out. I've seen it both ways. Let's have a look at the Instagrams at Fight Night Picks. We've been there all night. We've been hanging out on Instagram. We've had a lot of great DMs. A lot of people are happy with the fact that Calderwood was able to get the win over Jessica Eye. I'm sure Joanne Calderwood's one of those people. If we have a look at the total votes, 58% going with Dan Hooker to 42% going with Michael Chandler, and that should be a great fight. So, again, we've kind of broken this down from all different angles. You have the good takedown defense from Dan Hooker. The significant strike percentages are actually at a negative. And Edson Barboza took years off of his life, and that's one of those things that you definitely have to think of. Just about every Dan Hooker fight, really. You have to kind of worry about it. We get a little bit of a pre-fight montage as to who Mr. Bellator is, but he's no longer Mr. Bellator, but he'll always be Mr. Bellator. It's kind of like Phillip Rivers playing for the Colts. It was for one season, and then he retired.
I was just about to say the same thing, only different sport, different team. If Michael Chandler wins the UFC belt, it's going to look like Hakeem Olajuwon with a Raptors jersey on. Like, it's just not going to look right in my mind. Now, I would love to see it happen, personally. It'd just be really cool to see Michael Chandler be that Bellator UFC champ, kind of like Eddie Alvarez was able to do, but this fight's phenomenal. Here's the thing that a lot of people forget. Even if he loses this fight, let's say Dan Hooker wins the decision. It's a great fight, it's back and forth. Dan Hooker ends up winning. Eddie Alvarez lost his UFC debut against Cowboy Cerrone, and he still went on to become champ. Like, losing to Dan Hooker, I think it matters how you lose to him, but if Michael Chandler loses this fight, it's not like it's the end of the road for him, or he's some scrub from Bellator. Like, Michael Chandler's going to be around for a long time, whether you guys like it or not, and I do see him being a top 15 guy for the majority of his UFC career.
And the really interesting thing, a lot of good points being made. Ian saying Hooker has the heart of a champ, though. He's taken so much damage and never gave up. Kale's surprised that the odds aren't split even more. They call Hooker, but really he's a pimp. Well, that's just a great comment, so I'll give you that one. And a lot of people asking when it starts. I mean, we're getting the pre-fight montage, but this is such a good fight and, you know, really well matched. I mean, I know there was a lot of conversation when they signed Chandler. Obviously, weighed in as the alternate for Khabib and Justin Gaethje, but there was a lot of chatter around the fact that maybe he ends up fighting Tony Ferguson in his debut. That didn't happen, but you know what's weird? I bet he wishes he did.
I do too. Honestly, Michael Chandler, pretty bad stylistic matchup for old Tony Ferguson because he's got so much power on the feet, and he's such a dominant wrestler that I doubt Ferguson gets on top of him. But again, if we ever get Michael Chandler like Benel Dariush, I'm here for it. We get Michael Chandler, Charlie Olives, I'm here for it. We get Michael Chandler, anyone in the top 15, anyone in the UFC. Let's just be happy he's here. Okay, guys, Michael Chandler is awesome, and I'm very excited for this fight.
It should be a good one. Again, you're getting more highlight reel stuff from Hooker. You're getting more training montage from Chandler because, well, that's all they can use. You're not going to get the approval of Coker. Maybe, you know what they could have done? They could have showed him fighting Scott Stapp. Not Creed Scott Stapp, but they could have shown Michael Chandler with Strikeforce because he had a fight with them. But, yeah, I mean, this should be a great fight. We're getting ready for the walk of Michael Chandler. Iron Michael Chandler.
I'm unnaturally nervous right now, and I have nothing to do with this fight. Like, I couldn't really care less who wins this. I like both guys. It's going to be a great fight, but I'm just so happy that Michael Chandler's finally in the UFC.
This is definitely a Julian Lane fight if there was one. This is so weird seeing Chandler with the UFC. It's just an odd look, but it is what it is. Joe Dirt's having a good time. What do you think is going to happen to Tony Ferguson? That's a really tough one to try and tell.
I love Tony Ferguson. That's cool. They've got like Iron Mike in the back. That was neat. They had a cool graphic. Tony Ferguson's in a weird position because his name value means that you kind of have to promote him to a certain aspect. Like
Monster sponsorship for Chandler.
Nice, good for him. Tony Ferguson, yeah, he's at that stage in his career where he's only going to be fighting good fighters from this point on. We talk about this sometimes with up-and-comers where, like, Roosevelt Roberts when he fought Jim Miller. I didn't like that fight for him because win or lose, okay, if you beat Jim Miller, you only fight killers afterwards. And if you lose to him, not the end of the world. You're going to learn from what you did poorly and then it'll come back and be better. He lost that fight. Now, hopefully we do see a nice, good return for him. Tony Ferguson's in the position of he's at the top. You're only getting hard fights. There's some rematches out there for him. If Edson Barboza ever decided to move back up to 155, I'd love to see that. I'd like to see the RDA rematch as well. That was one where RDA was kind of on his way out of lightweight. It would be kind of cool to see RDA maybe take Tony out of lightweight. Sort of be very symbolic. But there's a lot of fun fights out there for him. It's just very hard to say where Tony Ferguson is at this stage in his career.
Mentally, he thinks he's a top fiver for sure.
100%. But where would you, like... Is he fighting like this because of the damage that he's taken, or would Tony Ferguson lose to Justin Gaethje and Charles Oliveira anyways? And I think that's a really important question you have to ask yourself, because if you think he was going to lose to Gaethje anyways, then, okay, no big deal. No, yes, he took a lot of damage in that fight, and Charles Oliveira was kind of a bad matchup for him, because Oliveira is one of the few guys who's just way better than him on the ground. Showed up to Theo Vaughn up there, but... So yeah, it'll be interesting to see where he goes forward. I think he can still beat a lot of very top 150 fighters. I think he still deserves to be ranked for sure, but I'm curious to see who he gets matched up with next.
I think a really good point being made up there, the fact that maybe you do The fight against Cerrone, Joe Dirt mentioning that one. Maybe a fight at 170 pounds instead of 155, but it'll be interesting.
The only problem I would have with him at 170, and I know he won the Ultimate Fighter at 170, but you look at just physically how much bigger a lot of the guys at 170 are, and Tony, he doesn't really have he doesn't have a frame that you think, oh wow, that's a guy who could fight at 170, he's cutting a lot of weight. Like, Dustin Poirier is huge. You look at him and he's real thick. I'm loving these graphics, by the way, for all the nicknames. They're kind of cool. Lame or not, at least they're trying something new. Right now, Dan Hooker's making his walk to the cage, though, to fight Michael Chandler. And those are words I just never thought I'd say throughout my whole entire existence, but I'm very happy I'm saying them.
Better's backing Dan Hooker with a $5,000 money line bet. Cool, man.
I mean, that's a lot of money, but it's not, like, insane amounts.
Not as insane as the parlay that dropped where a guy had, like, 50 large on Roundtree, among others. Jeremy Piven, the new co-host of Hot Boxing with Mike Tyson. Never thought I'd say that either.
I just got a handful of dill pickle seasoning in my mouth, so I'm going to need you to talk for 2 seconds.
But if you look at one like this, again, a lot of people pointing to the Charlie Olives. A lot of people talking about the fact that he has so many different options at 55. He really is the dark horse of this division. And you know Nick Pete from BT Sport trying to push the narrative of a lightweight tournament. But again, Oliveira with a win like that over Ferguson, so dominant. The striking was on point. The grappling was on point. You never see Tony Ferguson get out-grappled. You saw him get out-struck by Gaethje, but out-grappled, that was insane.
It really was. And it's not really something you ever expected yourself to see, unless he was fighting Khabib, of course. And it's sort of unfortunate because, the revisionist history comes out, and it's like, okay, well, would he have ever beaten Khabib in the first place? That's not the point. The point is that you had a guy on a 12-fight win streak and another guy on an 11-fight win streak, which no one had ever done. No one had even had a 10-fight win streak in the division ever. 2 of these guys went on double-digit win streaks, and were matched up together 5, 6, 7 times. And we just never got to see that fight, and I think that's the most disappointing thing from all this. Like, Tony Ferguson versus Khabib was my dream fight across any martial art. It was my dream just matchup in any sport, really. And the fact that we're never going to see that is a little bit heartbreaking.
Really excited about this fight. When it starts, we'll pop the timer up there. If you want to toss us a like and a sub, we would appreciate it. We're aiming for 20,000. And Matt, today, that number grew substantially, and it's all thanks to you. Chandler coming in here 4 years older at a 4-inch height disadvantage and 3.5 inches of reach going the way of Dan Hooker. So everything's saying Hooker that way. Pretty good stat line. Matt, I'm really looking forward to this fight. It should be a good one. We're getting Buffer to announce the guys as they make the walk, but I mean, just an insane day for MMA, especially the fact that you have such a good main and co-main on this one. We considered it an A-plus pay-per-view, and you don't get that very often, and we're pretty harsh critics, so really do appreciate everybody. Jawan hanging out in the chat, at Cash Deep. Gavin Brown saying, what's this? We're hanging out. We're talking about the fights, and we're about to start our co-main event of the evening between Michael Chandler, Iron Mike, and Dan the Hangman Hooker. Big fight. Big fight.
So final prediction. I'm going to say my way too specific prediction. I'm going to say Michael Chandler by ground and pound in the second round.
You're going
Thoughts?
ground and pound second round.
Questions?
That's an interesting
Concerns. What's your far too specific pick? Like method and winner.
Yeah, I'm going to go Chandler decision.
Fair.
But again, the way tonight's gone, it's been an absolute crapshoot.
That's a very good point. Holy smokes, Dan Hooker's about to fight Michael Chandler on an island during a pandemic. This is stuff they write books about, folks.
Oh, we're 300 short, or we're 290 short of 20,000, so you got to get into it.
We're almost there, guys. Tell a friend.
Getting set for our co-main event of the evening. Dan Hooker, Michael Chandler at lightweight. And a really important fight for this division as well. Glenn, they said Bellator. I love that. John Anik got a start over there, too. You got to keep that one in mind. Mark Goddard working our co-main event. I said your name properly. Well, I appreciate that, that I was able to do that for you. We get set for a first round. Here we go.
Oh my goodness. So Michael Chandler is officially a UFC fighter.
And he looks a lot shorter.
He does. He ticked, though. And again, it's interesting. Those calf kicks of Dan Hooker are really going to be a problem for Chandler if he can get them off early. We've seen Chandler have problems with some of those kicks earlier, but again, Chandler making them look early. And that's going to be a really big factor. If he is reaching for those kicks, especially those calf kicks, Dan Hooker will not be afraid to put one up high on him.
Yeah, I mean, you got Chandler really trying to cut off the cage and not really able to do so. Hooker just continues to circle to his right. Chandler kind of calling him out. Chandler with his head held high, really a stance that we've come to know and love over with Bellator. Those kicks continue to land for Dan. And, I mean, you have to think Hooker, especially with his hands low like this, really anticipating that takedown attempt from Chandler.
I mean, he does always kind of fight like that. But yeah, no, I mean, Michael Chandler's best path to victory is by far the wrestling. Now, does he have power in his hands? Yes. Is he a good striker? Yes. But Dan Hooker's not the type of guy you want to test your striking against. So I definitely expect Michael Chandler to at least go for one takedown in this round. Not a lot going on so far, just a lot of feeling out.
Hooker switching his stances, but continues to circle away from the power of Chandler, the thing that you definitely have to worry about with this guy. Starting to get a little disappointed. Hopefully you don't see either guy going to fish for something that they don't have. Interesting body shot there from Chandler.
Body, keeping him honest. And that's the thing that you see. You see a lot more boxing, of course, than you do in MMA, but the jab to the body, just kind of keep your opponent in the same place, keep them stationary. Michael Chandler really whipping the right hand to the body. Curious to see if he saw something in training, not to cut you off, just after the Edson Barbosa fight where Dan Hooker did take so many shots to the body.
Yeah, and that's one of those things, especially moving forward in his career, you have to think a lot of opponents going to game plan for a similar path to a Barboza. It's going to be really difficult to do that, but a guy like Chandler really shooting for those body shots. He threw an overhand right that whizzed off of the left shoulder of Hooker.
He's throwing him hard, though. And that's the thing, if Chandler does keep on going to the body, and then puts one up top like he just did, we're going to see Dan Hooker go to sleep, because those overhand rights are big.
Chandler is going all out. He's throwing absolute cinder blocks.
He's definitely the more powerful of the two. You can tell every time he lands, even if Dan Hooker is able to cover up and sort of block some of the shots, the power is just going through his body. But the calf kicks are starting to add up for him.
Nice calf kicks by Hooker. Phoenix Graves making a good point, saying, man, Dan's making Chandler work his cardio, making him...
Oh, he... Oh! Michael Chandler with a beautiful shot. Dan Hooker is down and he is hurt.
Oh!
Cage.
Chandler's got him rocked. No. Chandler by TKO. Wow! What a debut by Michael Chandler. UFC lightweight. Holy smokes!
So to all you guys who are saying that Michael Chandler's some B-tier guy, he knocked out Dan Hooker in the first round.
Whoa, you've got a top 5 lightweight. Wow, welcome to the UFC, Michael Chandler. What a win. Holy smokes.
You know who wasn't able to do that? Edson Barbosa, Dustin Poirier, Paul Felder.
Scott Coker is patting himself on the back. He is definitely drinking a little bit of proper 12. I can't open the bottle. Maybe I'm too young. But what a win for Michael Chandler in the first round. Wow. And that's that power that you have to worry about. And he sets it up so well with the fact that you always have to be wary of the takedown abilities of Michael Chandler. But that is the pop that you need on a card like this. Michael Chandler, have yourself a day, kid. The chat is going absolutely insane.
Turn the timer off.
Wow, what a win. We'll turn that timer off because that was just about as much fun as you're going to have in a Michael Chandler fight. And how good does Patricio Pitbull look like right now?
That was an insane overhand left that caught him beautifully on the chin. And again, that's the kind of power that Michael Chandler has in his hands. Is that how I thought he was going to win? Not at all. Is my bank account happy he won inside the distance? You're darn right. Because here's a little bet your boy had. I had Michael Chandler win inside the distance at plus 350. And that's a nice one to cash out on. I'm pretty happy with that.
Wow, what a win for Michael Chandler. And I mean, that ground and pound just continues to pound away Dan Hooker. And that's the thing. Dan Hooker, I mean, you know, it's easy to say it in hindsight. And it was easy to say it in a preview, but the guy's still so young, and he's had so many pro fights, and he's taken so many heavy shots.
I don't know if age has a factor. Again, I agree with what you're saying. I don't know if I agree with how you got there. I just think, again, the hard fights are going to get to you eventually, and Michael Chandler could have done that anyways. Again, this is Michael Chandler. You don't become Bellator champ by accident. These things don't just happen. Michael Chandler's one of the best 155 pounders in the world. And by the way, if Khabib is being truthful and he's like, okay, one good performance and like I might come back, that's the type of thing you have to do. So wow. What a performance by Michael Chandler. That was beautiful.
That's about as big of a win as you could get, especially for a guy like Chandler getting his hand raised here. I mean, seeding-wise, as far as his top of the division, you talk about it, it's right on. Hey, Zeus, you're a donkey. You don't know what you're talking about. But that's a great win, especially for a guy 34 years of age. And a guy that we thought probably should have came over earlier, but look at that. I mean, what a win.
I mean, yeah, no, he's fighting either Charles Oliveira, the winner of the main event, or like Justin Gaethje next. And those are the only 4 opponents he can possibly have. And that's pretty wicked, I gotta be honest. The fact that he also did the Justin Gaethje backflip off the top of the cage was pretty awesome. Some people saying too soon for no chin hooker. I do think it's a little too soon. That shot would have knocked out a horse. He hit him with an overhand left on the end of his chin that whipped his whole head around. Like, that's gonna put down pretty much anyone. I'm just happy Michael Chandler is in the UFC. And not only in the UFC, he probably just won himself a nice $50,000 check. Wow.
Justin Hayward hitting us up from St. John, New Brunswick, Canada.
Thank you guys for watching this with us, by the way. This is great.
Matt, that's about as excited as I've been for a fight, and that was the result that the boys were looking for, so that's a good way to go. And I mean, realistically...
Still struggling to get his drink open.
Oh, yeah, we get it open, so...
Okay. I'm fairly buzzed. I'm good.
Go with a little bit of the proper 12 myself, getting ready for our main event, but Michael Chandler with a huge win. Ramon's hitting us up in the super chat. We really do appreciate everybody for tuning in. Daniel Ricardo, excited about it on Twitter, but yeah, this division is crazy. Good point by Green King. And a great fight for sure. It's going to be interesting though. Like, I know Chandler, he's ready. He wants Khabib. He wants the winner of the main event. What's from stopping him? I mean, a first round knockout like that, that's huge.
Here's the one thing. I kind of wish we could hear what he was saying right now. Of course we can't. Fight companion. But phenomenal performance. This is what you wanted from Michael Chandler when he made his UFC debut. I didn't just want to see Michael Chandler, like, have a good unanimous decision win against some guy. Like, he knocked out Dan Hooker in round number 1 with an overhand left. You don't get better than that, guys.
And I mean, there's a good point made by Craig, and you got to think of this sport in a couple of different ways. Let's make it, it's a couple guys going in there that have families outside of this. Poor Dan Hooker can't see his family for a long time. So, shouts to Dan Hooker. I mean, he put on a performance, so to speak, but wow, what a win for Michael Chandler. And for Pablo, yeah, that's probably going to end up in the next highlight reel. That's probably, I think that's going to be a little different than the best part of the highlight reel right now is Amanda Nunes just knocked out Chris Cyborg. And I speed it up, but what a win. Let me know what the call out is. Renee, I can't tell so far. But Iron Mike really putting it on for about 2,000 fans there.
You guys are saying the interview is great, so good. That's what you need. Michael Chandler, A, he was in the press conference. He did a good job in that. Check mark number 1. B, you just knocked out one of the best fighters in the world in the first round. I'd give you 9 check marks if I could. And B, you ended the fight with a great post-fight press conference. You went 3 for 3. That's all you can ask for as a fighter.
Michael Chandler with the biggest debut we've seen in a long time. What a great opportunity. And now the fights with Alvarez really come together. The win over Dan Hooker. He just silenced all of those Bellator doubters.
Oh, Hooker left his gloves in the octagon. Wow. Well, I mean, hopefully he reconsiders, because I do think Dan Hooker has a very bright future as a fighter. But this does make sense. I mean, if Dan Hooker wants to just be like a coach at City Kickboxing, I'm sure the boys over there, Eugene and them, would definitely let him do it. Like, Dan Hooker is still one of the best fighters in the world, and that's what makes this win so impressive. Like, it's not like Michael Chandler beat a guy. Like, Will Brooks, here's a great example. Will Brooks fought Ross Pearson in his UFC debut. A good fighter, don't get me wrong, especially at the time. He didn't knock out Dan Hooker in the co-main event of Conor McGregor versus Dustin Poirier on Fight Island. Like, that's as big and as impressive as a win as you can possibly ask for in the UFC.
Now, great question. How long are we going to have to wait for our main event?
Hopefully not very.
Yeah, hopefully not very. But Poirier taking on McGregor, what a big fight. And wow. I mean, you talk about the way that fight just ended. And it was a fight that, we had hyped up probably more than any of the fights on this card. It was Chandler and Hooker.
Just a little bit.
And that's the other thing. I mean, getting back to the roots of Fight Night Picks, we started covering regional MMA. We covered a UFC show with UFC Monked and the posters behind Matt. Really got entrenched with Bellator. It's a shame that the drive from us to get to Connecticut is 10 hours. We made friends along the way, so shouts to Ryan Jarrell in Bangor, Maine. Maybe one day you see us traveling down there with him. But until that day, it's going to be difficult to cover Bellator, but we will continue to try and cover it here on the channel. So if you want to see more Bellator content, there's definitely great fighters and uber prospects over there. You know the names like Usman Nurmagomedov. You know some of those bigger names. We've seen Adam Boric really make an impact. We've seen AJ McKee invent submissions over there. So it's been a lot of fun following along with those guys. Following the career of Chandler to this point, it's crazy to see what's happened so far, but wow. What a win in our co-main event.
It felt really good opening up my Bodog account, seeing the extra $350 in there, I'm not going to lie. That was a nice feeling. I'm so excited for this main event. Here's the thing. We just saw Michael Chandler make his UFC debut in probably the most impressive fashion possible. And you're probably asking yourself, how do we one-up that? Oh, did you know? Conor McGregor is about to fight Dustin Poirier, and that's going to be one of the best fights really you're ever going to see. Like, I'm so excited for this main event still. This has been a phenomenal card up until this point, and I'm still very excited over what we just saw. Like, my palms are sweating right now because Michael Chandler just knocked out Dan Hooker in the first round. What a performance. What a way to make your debut. And here's the thing, too. I understand a lot of UFC fighters. Like, we call everyone, listen, you're an MMA fan, and we probably watch more UFC than Bellator. I've been guilty of missing a Bellator event before, but this is the way you make your introduction to the UFC. Again, not a lot of people who are watching this card are probably Michael Chandler fans. There's a lot of people watching this mainly for the main event, and especially Conor McGregor. The fact that Michael Chandler was able to go out there and put on such an impressive performance and cut such a great promo from what you guys have said, that's just going to put him even higher in the rankings. And wow, this is wild.
All right, Matt. So let's look at this. Ali Hassan saying you got every female pick wrong. Hey,
I'm bad at fights sometimes.
Menon Fiorot getting the win over Leonardo, going hard on that one. And there was a fight on last Saturday as well. Listen, I gave you the picks on the undercard to go with, and they hit. So that's as far as I'm going to go. I got my parlay, my little two-piece, and that's the thing that I do. I always go with a couple of fighters that I feel pretty confident on. It's a week-over-week approach, and usually it nets a little bit of money at the end.
Listen, if I'm really confident about one, I will let you guys know. Like when I thought Glover would win in the third round over Thiago Santos, I'll let you know. Tonight, I got to be honest, I wasn't very confident in a lot of the picks because when you have a fight like Dan Hooker and Michael Chandler, again, you have to look at what Dan Hooker could do to Michael Chandler. And yes, it was done early. You didn't really get to see what Dan Hooker was able to do. But Dan Hooker was landing a lot of those calf kicks. So let's say Chandler doesn't land that big overhand. That fight's still a really hard fight for Chandler. So just a phenomenal fight. Wow. What a card so far. I'm excited for this main event too. Like Conor McGregor's making his return against my favorite fighter of all time. It's getting wild.
PC is hanging out. Always keep it 100. Ian saying you only watch Bellator when it's McDonald, Musasi. Yeah, I mean, no more Rory's with the PFL, so now you have to be a PFL fan.
Unless he's a big Michael McDonald fan. I guess he's not even around anymore.
He's not even around either. So I'm really looking forward to the PFL season as well. I got to throw, credit where credit's due. They've really added to their roster. Obviously, Rory McDonald is one of those names, but the Anthony Pettises of the world, again, former title challengers, former title lists. Obviously, Rory, reaching the pinnacle there with Bellator. Unfortunate how his last fight went with Douglas Lima, but still, it's that aura of a Rory McDonald. So it should be interesting. It's going to be interesting as well how those guys match up against the PFL roster, which is, of course, very wrestle-heavy. You have to imagine one of those guys, whether Pettis is at 55 or 70, probably gets like a Ray Cooper the third. But it's going to be good. It's going to be good.
And that's not an easy fight. It's really weird with the PFL because there's just a lot of specialists involved, or at least it seems kind of sitting. I gotta be honest, I'm not the biggest PFL fan in the world. I'll watch an event here and there, but I'm not like, oh wow, I know what everyone has for points in the regular season and whatnot. But a lot of them, you're either a primary wrestler or you're a primary striker. And it'll be interesting to see where Rory McDonald fits into all of that because he is such a well-rounded fighter. And we've seen just so many different versions of Rory McDonald, especially in the latter half of his career. After that Robbie Lawler fight, and it gets talked about a lot. If you take a lot of damage as a fighter, sometimes you're just never the same. And Rory McDonald hasn't only been through one of those fights. He's been through a lot of those crazy fights.
All right, let's go into the comment section. Teflon Don saying, hey guys, first time here. Love the show. Can't wait for more.
Thank you.
Jawan, first fight was pretty quick. Travis saying you guys doing the fight companions legit. Well, we appreciate you. Rahman saying, yo, random, who's your favorite ref? Herzog?
Is he yours? Mark Goddard falls in and out of my good graces. It's kind of weird. Like when Mark Goddard, you don't hear anything about him. I think he's one of the better refs in the UFC, but then sometimes you hear about him a lot. Jason Herzog's just a good pick. And here's the good thing about Jason Herzog, and I kind of brought it up with Mark Goddard. You don't hear anything about him. And that's the best situation if you are a ref. If I don't know anything about you, you're doing your job phenomenally.
Yeah, I mean, Herzog's one of those guys. You see him find his mentions on Twitter, and I laugh about it. But overall, he does a great job. And I have an unpopular pick where, yeah, he's had one or two fights that fell out, but it's not a consistent thing. Kevin McDonald with the stash and that mullet, he does a half-decent job. Again, I understand. Everybody makes mistakes, but night in, night out, Kevin McDonald's not a bad guy.
Who's Torbjorn there? Buddy with the big beard.
Mike
Beltran?
Mike Beltran.
He's not bad. Like, Mike Beltran, it's weird. He's one of the few, Bellator refs, if you will. He just seems to do a lot of Bellator events, but a big Mike Beltran fan.
All right, here is the return of the Mac. It is the return of the Mac. Conor McGregor taking on Dustin Poirier again. Appreciate everybody for tuning in out there. Toss us the like, toss us the sub, and I'm enjoying it. Looks like Daniel's saying that we got to get Eddie Bravo on here. I've got an Eddie Bravo type for you, but if we weren't in the red zone, we could do that.
We could listen. There's a lot of fun we can do with this stuff post-COVID, and
Yeah.
we can just kind of leave it at that. Like, here's the thing: there's a lot of restrictions in the world right now, but we've got a lot of really good ideas coming up. So just stay tuned with Fight Night Picks, and we're gonna be growing this quite a bit in 2021.
Conor McGregor making the walk.
Oh,
And
Craig's getting on my level all of a sudden. This
Proper
stream's
12.
going bad. Sure.
proper 12. Let's call it like it is, but I'm really looking forward to this fight. I mean, Conor McGregor is one of those guys that obviously transcends the sport.
Oh, yeah.
And the weird thing about this fight week, normally you get a brash Conor McGregor. You get, a guy that really flaunts himself out there, makes it all about himself. He hasn't really done that. I know the UFC has, and they've marketed him as such, and they focused a lot more on McGregor than they have on Poirier. Poirier's definitely got some shine, but I like everything I've seen from McGregor. From a conditioning standpoint, at the weigh-ins he looked fine.
He did.
His overall demeanor was good. It's not like he's clanging back the proper 12. I haven't even seen a whole lot of it other than the fact that he had it in his room when he showed up at the hotel. But overall, I really like this out of McGregor. Win, lose, or draw. Hopefully it's a year where we get to see him a couple times.
Here's my problem, though. If you're Conor McGregor, how do you talk shit to Dustin Poirier in the year 2021? We kind of went over this with our predictions, but okay. He does really good in his community. He donates a lot of time and money towards others.
So did McGregor.
No, that's what I mean. But I just mean, if you're Conor, that's what you're known for. You talk shit. You really put down your opponent. Dustin Poirier puts on exciting fights, loves his family, and helps his community. There's not a lot you can really go off of that. It was nice to see more of a subdued, just sort of pre-fight from both of them. Very respectful between all four guys in the co-main and main event. Like you had mentioned, Michael Chandler mentioned it at the event too. It's wild to see how far these two have come, just as humans since their first fight. And I'm going to sound like Robin Black for a minute, but Conor McGregor used to be this I'm going to say anything I can and just berate you and talk a bunch of bad things that we probably shouldn't cross those lines for fight promotion. And Dustin Poirier would get caught up in that stuff, but now you see them and they're okay, we fight, so there should be somewhat of an animosity, but to quote Wreck-It Ralph, my favorite animated movie of all time, I'm a bad guy, but it doesn't mean I'm a bad guy, and that seems to be what it is with Conor McGregor. You don't need to hype your fight any more than you already have. People are going to watch it because of who you are, especially with an opponent like this. With Cowboy, it was a little bit different. Cowboy had a few losses. It was a guy who wasn't at the top of the division anymore. But you're fighting Dustin Poirier, who is one of the best fighters of all time at 155, who only goes out there and puts on exciting fights. And I couldn't be more excited for this fight. As I see Pin Poppy, I know who that is. That guy's name's John. You're wrong, John. Dustin Poirier's about to win.
Now, again, this is one of those fights we're split on the pick, and again, I can't fault you for picking Dustin Poirier. McGregor's a huge favorite. He was a 3-1 favorite when we were setting up.
I'm a little biased, by the way, Craig.
But again, I can definitely see a path to victory for Dustin Poirier. I gotta lay that one out there. I made the money on the undercard. We're enjoying the main card with everybody in the comments section. Everybody's having a good time. We got the proper 12 again. Marcus Deegan over with what happens here. He'd be having a good time.
I've got a Japanese whiskey, personally.
Mac L's making a really good point. Is there an alternative to Super Chats? I don't want to support the corporate Babylon. Somebody got angry, upset about it earlier. You can help out the channel by supporting us over at FightNightPicks.com and pick up some of the merch. And then at least you get, something tangible that you can have with you. You can hang out, watch the show. Phoenix Graves making a good point there. I shipped out a box yesterday, quite a nice box, I will add, and I've seen a couple orders come in today as well. So I try to ship them out as quick as possible. Sunday is a day of rest. We have Dustin Poirier making the walk here, feeling it. And what a great fight for a rematch. I mean, if you look at all the fights that Conor McGregor's had in his UFC career, did we want to ever see Dennis Seaver 2? No. Did we ever want to see Chad Mendes 2? Probably not.
A little bit.
Aldo? Maybe. But Dustin Poirier and Max Holloway, those are the two bugaboos. And the one with Dustin Poirier, definitely a great fight to make at 55 at present time.
I don't have a lot of man crushes in this world, but Dustin Poirier is one of them. Again, there's not a lot of fighters who I really go out of my way to be wow, I actually follow them on social media and I kind of see what they do. I like everything about Dustin Poirier. I can't hide it. I like his fighting style. He's never in a boring fight. It's very similar to the Dane Hooker aspect, where it is, oh, goodness, Justin Hayward trying to kill the boys live on stream. Oh, I'm drinking a Japanese whiskey, not a chug and drink. But yeah, Poirier, again, you can't really say enough about him. He does great in his community. He puts on exciting fights, and he's good on the mic, and he's fairly funny. That's all I look for in a fighter at this point, to be completely honest. I'm really glad he is able to get this rematch.
And his hot sauce brand is out of a Canadian company as well, out of Thunder Bay, Ontario. So support the Canadians in general. out of Heartbeat Hot Sauce Company up there. You've seen them on Hot Ones. You see them with Dustin Poirier. I love the little bottles. They have them at Winners. They have them at Marshalls.
There you
so
go.
Sometimes you can find them there. But yeah, I'm definitely going to pick up a bottle. It's only $14 Canadian.
There you go.
It's not that bad. So overall, you look at a fight like this. Again, Dustin Poirier, if he's going to get the win, probably incorporate a little bit of the wrestling, some of the grappling as well. Do you see his striking taking over as the fight goes on?
I hope so. That's really what I'm hoping on. Dustin Poirier has some of the better cardio you'll ever see out of an MMA fighter, but it's weird because he huff and puffs from the second he starts the fight until the end of the fight. And even in the Dan Hooker fight, I'm like, oh, Dustin's getting tired. And then he doesn't get tired, and he just keeps on doing the classic Dustin Poirier thing. His key to victory is kind of similar to the Jessica I key to victory, but I really hope he does it a little bit better. Like, if you can close the distance, but do it in a safe way, because Conor McGregor's phenomenal at picking off his opponents on their way in, but once you are in on him, it's not like he's throwing a lot of elbows or knees towards your body. If he does close that distance, get Conor up against the cage, work in some takedowns here and there, as Kyler Murray's he's watching. He's a good football player, even though I don't know a lot about the sport. But Poirier, if he can mix it up constantly, if he's going for takedowns, if he is striking a little bit with McGregor in certain points, I think he can win the fight, especially as the fight progresses.
All right, Matt, we got McGregor getting the intro in here now. Both guys coming in at 32, both of them 5'9", both of them, well, one at 156, one at 155. You have the reach in favor of McGregor at 2 inches. Going to be really interesting to see how these guys match up again 6 years later.
I'm so excited right now. I can't lie. Like, this is as excited as I've ever been for a UFC fight. And maybe it's because we're watching with a group of 400 who we can't see. But this is a phenomenal fight. Again, it is my favorite fighter fighting the biggest star in the sport's history. So yeah, I'm excited for this fight either way. I just hope for a good fight at this point. Like, I don't want Dustin to knock out Conor in 2 minutes. I don't want Conor to do the same to Dustin. Just have a great fight that the fans can enjoy. And hopefully both guys' stock will rise after this.
Glenn Bacardi makes a really good point. Ricky's baby was baptized in liquor. And then they had Randy's baby that ended up you could wipe the grease off him with a piece of bread. But we're getting ready for such an interesting fight, especially in terms of seeding. The weird thing before this fight, the fact that there was always a title dangled on top. We had the big announcement last Saturday that wasn't much of an announcement. We had the kind of, peer pressure tactics over on looking for a fight. It's odd that we haven't had the conversation of a belt really put to the forefront with this one.
It's weird that Dana White hasn't even been like, hey, Khabib, you could fight Dustin. It's just like, hey, you want to fight Conor? And Khabib's like, well, not really. How about you look at the other side of the main event and maybe he'll decide to fight him? I do agree with you. It is weird that they haven't put a title along with this fight. And I don't know if you were in total agreement with me, but I know we talked about it a little bit. I fully expected this to be for a vacant title when they did fight for it. I just expected them to announce it maybe a little bit later, but I did expect sort of a full lead up so they could use it promotionally as just sort of a tool to hype this fight. I'm glad we're getting this fight no matter what, title or not. It's still going to be 5 rounds. It doesn't really matter. And I think we can all agree. This fight, it's odd to say. This fight has sort of transcended MMA. Like, I don't think either one of these guys need a belt right now. Dustin Poirier could get knocked out in 2 seconds, and he's still a Hall of Fame caliber fighter. And same thing with Conor McGregor. Like, this fight, to me, doesn't really change either guy's legacy. It just helps strengthen them. All right, I'll do one more, but this
Justin
is it,
Hayward
Justin.
and Vu Dude hanging out in Northern Ireland. We really do appreciate everybody for tuning in. 426 strong so far. Question Mark Kicks set records today, so it's been an insane day for Fight Night picks. Ugh. Conor McGregor, you make...
Not the stream I expected, but listen, this is where we're at.
You make some whiskey. All right, I have McGregor in this one. You have Poirier.
I might cry if he doesn't win. No.
But again, you've got a guy that's a minus 300. His last fight at lightweight, it's been some time. Again, we questioned his cardio coming into this one, and a lot of people gave us a lot of flack, and rightfully so. I don't know how his game planning's going. I don't know if he's been riding the Peloton for quite a while.
Thank you, Mac.
Mac can't swing the 22 shipping. I apologize, Mac. I mean, it's one of those things for us to ship to the States. It's usually $22 to ship it down there, and that's the thing.
And here's the thing, too. Don't feel like you have to donate in the Super Chat or buy the merch to support the channel. Just you watching and watching all the stuff that we do supports us a lot. Like, tell a friend. Hopefully you can get them on board who likes MMA. But, yeah, just you guys watching right now helps support this channel and grow it. So we appreciate each and every one of you guys who decided to spend your nights listening to us.
Yeah, we're almost at, we need 280 more subscribers. We're at 20,000, and that's something I never would have thought. This time last year, we were just breaking 1,000, and we made it this far so far. So we really do appreciate you. The analysis, all the stuff that we do, we're doing it for you. It's just it's one of those labor of love type of things.
It really is.
Looking forward to it. Now, again,
Dustin Poirier's about to fight Conor McGregor.
We get the matchup that everybody's really been waiting for. Conor McGregor, a true January fighter. Dean in the center.
I had a line that I had ready for that Michael Chandler-Dan Hooker fight, but I didn't get a chance to say it.
Here we go. We are ready for the first round of our main event. McGregor taking on Poirier. If you want to try and lock it in, we would appreciate that, and then you can follow along with us.
I was going to say it's like Dan Hooker brought a lemon to a knife fight, but it doesn't matter now. It's too late. Okay.
We had a bit of a false start.
All right.
McGregor really looking to get that left hand going quick.
Good jab by McGregor so far. And again, it'll be interesting to see how he does use his head movement, because he does really like to use his head as a counter. And Dustin Poirier uses sort of a Philly shell defense, and the way that he used it, the left hand will be open from time to time, but just be curious to see how the fight goes. Good hands by both guys so far. Nice pullbacks.
Nice counter right there from Dustin Poirier on the exchanges when McGregor starts to lunge in. But again, McGregor really wanting to start fast. I do like the inside leg kick from Poirier early as we approach 30 seconds in.
Oh, Dustin Poirier takes Conor McGregor down. Something I love to see, because this is the stuff I like. Okay, Dustin Poirier on the ground does not get the credit he deserves. He's a legit black belt on the mat. And listen, I think Conor McGregor's a phenomenal defensive grappler. I really do. But that submission game from Dustin Poirier is something that he doesn't get the credit. He reminds me a lot of Jose Aldo, where Jose Aldo is about the boxing, it's about the leg kicks, and they're always talking about the thing that he doesn't do phenomenally well. Dustin Poirier's a legit black belt on the ground, not like a Thiago Santos black belt. Like, when he gets you down, he can cause some damage. Good job by McGregor getting back up.
McGregor gets back up, and he didn't panic. That was a perfect thing for him to do in that circumstance. Again, Poirier really wearing on McGregor, but McGregor now, with Poirier, his back up against the cage, the shoulder strikes. Wow, that was a possible move of the year from Fight Night Picks in 2020. McGregor with a nice uppercut there.
Seeing a little bit from both guys. Now, both guys get dirty in the clinch. It's what you like to see. Now, Conor's doing a good job controlling the hands of Poirier in this position, because, again, if you remember watching that Dan Hooker fight, Poirier in the clinch is really dangerous, especially with his offensive shots.
Poirier really doing a good job now. Reverse position. McGregor with his back up against the cage. Poirier with one underhook. Hand fighting between the two.
Interesting fight so far.
Both guys, again, really doing a lot in this clinch position.
Dustin Poirier is doing one. I like what I see so far, because you can tell the moment doesn't matter to him. Like, the thing that did affect him in that first fight is not there right now. Like, Dustin Poirier is one of the best fighters in the world. I doubt the moment's going to get to him. Like, if Conor beats him, it's because Conor's better than him. It has nothing to do with the lead up or any of that.
McGregor doing a good job with those shots in close as Poirier goes deep for a takedown attempt, but it just doesn't look like he's going to get it. We focused on that a lot in the pre-fight build-up. The fact that McGregor, a lot of people like to rag on his grappling, but you have to take it for both pieces, offensive and defensive. Defensively quite sound, but on the offense, you don't really see a lot. And if he gets really a good wrestler up against him that takes it down, we saw it in the Chad Mendes fight, a nice comeback
as they're about to break the clinch. So now Conor has Dustin up against the cage. Interesting to see Conor stay in these situations. I would assume he'd try to break and get back to open space, because Dustin is doing a good job even when they are up close. Now, both guys are just trading shoulder strikes back and back, and they seem to be talking to each other, which is very odd. But I'm surprised Conor has not disengaged yet. I don't know if he is worried for kind of what we saw in the Jessica Eye, Joanne Calderwood fight. When they do disengage from the clinch, Dustin is really good at making his opponents pay. But yeah, I'm kind of curious to see why Conor's not just trying to create distance right now, because we know how good of a striker he is in the open space.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, McGregor with a lot of really smart strikes in this clinch.
Not really, though, because he's only using his shoulder, and that's the problem. Like, me hitting you with my shoulder is not going to knock you out. Me hitting you with my left hand in the middle of the cage.
Winged some uppercuts. He also went for some foot stomps. Nice elbow on the break. And now we have separation. About 1:36 remaining in our first round. Poirier throwing that kick, and it looked a little bit labored, but if you know anything about Dustin Poirier, is he gets hit by a left hand.
Good strike by Conor so far. Conor's hands are so fast.
McGregor, again, nice right there as Poirier goes to shoot.
Great fight so far, though.
1:19 remaining.
Beautiful jab by Conor.
Oh.
Wow. Good switch right hand. That was a nice strike by old McGregor.
Yeah, McGregor's striking looks absolutely on point tonight.
If you're Poirier, you really got to feint heavy. You can't just throw those wild looping shots and expect Conor to miss, because you really got to be able to... You gotta draw out his attacks and not just let him react to yours. Because right now Dustin's on the defensive a lot with his striking, and I'd really like to see him feint a little bit more to try to draw out those big reactions of Conor. I like the leg kick so far from Poirier, though, I must say. That was a nice right hook by Poirier, talking shit to him now.
McGregor doing a good job of landing in combination, and again, another kick by Dustin Poirier. McGregor doing another good job of backing Poirier up, but those kicks really starting to pay dividends, and it's early.
Both guys doing a great job so far. Really, this is the best version of the fight that we were going to get. Conor doing a good
lands.
job being first. His hand speed is key in this fight. And it's odd, too, because we're not seeing Conor put everything behind his shots. It's just, I'm getting point A to point B. I'm getting point A to point B. And those are going to add up as the fight progresses. Dustin Poirier's check right hook, though, is something you really have to watch out for. He's been landing that a lot as the fight goes on.
You see Poirier start to land his hands out there, try to establish distance.
Both guys doing a great job.
10 seconds left in the round.
Good left hand by Conor. It seemed to land, but didn't do anything.
We get the end of the first round. Let us know down below in the comment section. Who are you going with in this first round?
First round.
Who did you have in that one? We'll flip it back over to our alternate view. McGregor outlanding Poirier. And he did a great job. Poirier had that initial takedown, but McGregor scoot, popped right back up. Reverse position against the cage. But again, I think the real story out of this one, it almost looked like McGregor was comfortable kind of pushing a little bit of the action in the clinch. That really surprised me.
He did a really good job moving forward. Now, again, I don't like the fact that he was engaging in the clinch so much. If I'm Conor, I keep this fight in the middle of the cage. I would try to keep this a striking matchup because you can see he does have better hand speed than Dustin Poirier does have. But I'm very curious to see, will the cardio of Poirier come into effect? Will Conor start to get tired at any point? Really, same thing with Poirier as well. If he starts to fatigue, Conor could start to take over as the fight progresses, but great first round so far.
Really looking forward to it. Now, Renee's got a 10-9 Conor. Akashdeep's got 10-9 for Conor. You've got 10-9 Conor. I've got 10-9 Conor. So does Rahman as well. We'll flip it back over to our view. We'll get ready for the start of our second round between Poirier and McGregor, UFC 257, our main event. You can sync up with us as we get started. What a stream. We really do appreciate everybody.
Oh, good leg kick by Dustin. That one got a big reaction out of Conor, but Conor's starting to land with that right hand. He's doing a great job shifting off to his right and kind of throwing it as a shovel hook, kind of a la Robbie Lawler.
That lead right hand of Conor McGregor really doing a lot of great work, really kind of disrupting the flow for Poirier.
It's really interesting, too, because both guys are southpaw, but you see them use that right hand to great effect, because Poirier's got that great check right hook. He's landed that a few times. But same thing with Conor. He's not really just throwing a jab. He's really shifting off to the right and throwing a hook with it.
Another thing that we mentioned early on in the pre-fight analysis, the fact that McGregor doesn't really do it where he mixes his kicks in with his striking. As they show the graphic where Poirier has 11-1 in terms of the leg kicks, we've seen McGregor in the second round. He threw a leg kick. He threw a high kick. He's switching things up a little bit. But again, his hands are so crisp in this fight here. And Poirier really doing a good job of countering in close. He's doing a great job, especially you mentioned that check right hook really starting to find a home. Nice body kick by Poirier.
Yeah, it's weird to see Poirier throw so many kicks because I would have assumed coming into this fight that Conor would be the more kick-heavy out of the two. But no, it's nice to see Poirier go to the legs so much. And again, it's interesting. He's starting to get big reactions out of McGregor even when he's feinting it. So now he just really has to work on his hands and hopefully the takedowns at some point in this fight. But so far, a great start to the fight.
McGregor catches a kick. Interesting by McGregor as he pushes the action against the cage.
That was the best case scenario for Dustin to not get hit by a big strike because I really thought Conor was going to make him pay for that.
Now he's starting to catch all of the kicks.
But you can tell that the kicks are getting to him. He's reaching down far for that.
Nice leg kick by McGregor. Poirier starting to land combinations in tight. And again, a conversation that we had earlier on this main card, the fact that not a lot of fights are won by the fighter that's behind the two black lines, but Poirier really starting to land some nice shots here.
I mean, these are two of the greatest fighters that we've ever seen, so I'm not that surprised that they can both fight in all the ranges of the fight. Just a phenomenal fight so far. And again, I like the kicking game of Dustin Poirier. The punches of Conor are starting to get close to that shin. Poirier's really got to watch his head movement, moving backwards. He got caught stationary by that one. Again, I like the kicks. I would like to see him open up with the hands a little bit more. Good right hand by... Oh! He might have Conor hurt. He landed a nice shot on McGregor.
Really
Dustin
nice.
Poirier's got Conor McGregor hurt up against the cage.
Dustin Poirier's doing a great job here.
Good overhand left.
Really nice shots landing for Poirier.
He's
Holy
missing
smokes.
a lot, though. He is missing a lot.
Oh! He put him down! Dustin Poirier beats Conor McGregor!
Poirier has done it! He put down Conor McGregor! Stephen A. Smith, watch this fight! That's the best 155-pounder I've ever seen!
Dustin Poirier shocks the world with the win over Conor McGregor. Holy smokes, let's turn
Get it out of my face! Sorry.
Wow. He knocked McGregor out. Holy smokes. Who would have anticipated a win like that? Dustin the Diamond Poirier getting the biggest win of his life for the biggest star in the sport, Conor McGregor, and Dustin Poirier now jawing, must be at Dana White. He wants that shot at Khabib Nurmagomedov now.
Yeah.
Will Khabib come out of retirement? That one's doubtful, but what a win for Dustin Poirier.
Okay,
wow.
I don't know if you guys know Dustin Poirier's story as they show his wife. He went to juvenile detention as a child. His wife waited for him, sent him letters while he was in there, and this is what this man just accomplished. Like, again, people try to make MMA about more than it is. Dustin Poirier is probably the greatest story in MMA that I can think of. Like, you rarely see a guy get knocked down and get back up, and get knocked down and get back up, and just keep on getting better, fight after fight after fight. But Dustin Poirier is the greatest. I'm so happy Dustin Poirier's knocked out Conor McGregor. I can't stress this enough. Dustin Poirier, you're a bad MFer. Give him the BMF title. He doesn't even look like he cares. He's like, yeah, that's what I do. Wow.
Dustin Poirier with the best win of 2021.
Good for him.
Conor McGregor showing humility in the loss, but I mean, do we get Dustin Poirier and Manny Pacquiao? Like, what's the scoop here?
I'm low-key here for it. Here's the problem, and I'm going to say it right now, and you guys are going to say, oh, Matt, you're a Dustin dick rider. I don't know who beats him, because right now you have to look at who he's been able to beat. He beat Dan Hooker in one of the craziest fights you've ever seen. He knocked out Justin Gaethje. He knocked out Conor McGregor now. Like, okay, Charles Oliveira, I would assume, is next. I like Charles Oliveira quite a bit, Craig. You know that. I've been on that train for a minute now. You know who I don't think has a chance against Dustin Poirier? Well, Charlie Olives. Wow. Conor thought he could strike with Dustin up against the cage, but that power, like, again, it's what I said. Dustin, if you look at the triangle of striking, you have to think about volume, power, and cardio. He has all three of them. And he knocked out Conor McGregor.
The TKO win for Dustin Poirier.
I gotta contain myself.
For Conor McGregor, I mean, you look at the win that he had his last time out, a big statement win over Cowboy Cerrone early in the first round in that fight. And then you have a look back through. I mean, you know, looked great in the first round. We had him as a 10-9. He was doing great work early on, but holy smokes. I mean, his first fight back at lightweight since the submission loss to Khabib Nurmagomedov. And wow, Dustin Poirier with a huge win, the biggest of his career over Conor McGregor.
Your boy had a parlay, too, of Michael Chandler and Dustin Poirier, so I'm also happy for that. But I'm just happy about the results right now. Like, oh my God. First of all, here's the thing. Everyone assumed if Conor's going to win, it's by knockout. And if Dustin wins, he's going to outlast him. He's going to make it into the last rounds. No one assumed Dustin would knock out Conor on the feet in the second round. Like, wow. We've never seen that before either. Like, Conor's been submitted before. He's never been TKO'd. And the fact that Dustin Poirier was able to go out there and TKO Conor McGregor is absolutely insane. He looks huge, too. That's the thing. Everyone's talking about how big Conor looks and how good he looks. I don't know how Dustin even makes 170 pounds.
Now you got to have a trilogy fight.
I mean, I like Dustin a lot in that third fight, so bring that on.
Wow. What a win for Dustin Poirier. I mean, really took the wind out of the sails for 2021. But a huge win for Dustin Poirier over Conor McGregor. You love to see it. What a night in MMA. And really appreciate everybody for tuning in. It's 1:42 a.m. local. Huge win for Poirier. Hopefully you enjoyed the card. And we've got more crazy things coming for 2021.
Yeah, I don't really know what to say right now. I'm not often lost for words, but I am right now. Thank each and every one of you guys for coming in and not only spending the time with us on question mark kicks, not only the predictions, but also hanging out with us during this fight companion. I don't know about Craig, but I'm more than excited about doing more of these in the future. So, yeah, let's make sure. Listen, 2020 was a bad year for a lot of people, but I feel like 2021 is getting off to a pretty good start, so just onwards and up from here.
Really looking forward to it. We got some great stuff in the weeks off. Make sure you check out the podcast, Early Stoppage. We get This Week in MMA. We got the recaps. We've got this show as well, but a lot of great things coming up from Fight Night Picks in 2021. Enjoy the show, and as we always say, Matt, with Fight Night Picks, let's get into it.
Ladies and gentlemen, recorded in Fredericton, New Brunswick, Canada. It's time for Fight Night Picks with your host, Craig and Matt.